A reminder for everybody watching at home, and I'll say it again later, you snooze, you lose, you're out of the tournament. Simple as that for both OXG and MNM. And MNM might not have played in the playoffs yet, but they come in the lower seeding from the group. That's why they only have one shot, one opportunity. Will they capture it or just let it slip? And takes through map bans.
I'm not surprised with the bank ban coming out from MNM. It seems to be their insta-ban. They ban it all the time, so nothing too special there. And if you look at Chalet coming in from Oxygen as a ban, that makes a lot of sense. It's a map that MNM currently has a 100% win rate on, so it's probably best to get the best map of your opponent out of the way immediately.
Yeah, and likewise, MNM picking Kafe doesn't seem like too much of a surprise, as they beat Empire 7-5 on that map. Empire undefeated until they met MNM, and in fact the only loss Empire have had is to the MNM roster. Oxygen taking Oregon, that's a map that they defeated both MIBR and Team 1 on, but both of those matches they lost 2-1. So Oxygen, they might be out to get Clubhouse, but can they get the Decider or Kafe? That's a whole question entirely.
Yeah, exactly. If you talk about Oregon, the pick for Auction, the only map that they lost, the only game that they lost on Oregon so far was against Damwon Kia. So, and you said like the Clubhouse ban coming in from MNM and then the Villa ban for Auction. It's a good map for...
The thing here is it leaves us with Coastline, and guess what? MNM 7-1'd Empire on Coastline. That is scary. Thinking that Oxygen is going up against MNM on two maps that MNM have beaten one of the best players in the tournament.
Well, that is our first game, and we'll hope to come back and see our best matchup between these two teams, because I'll tell you a reminder again, if you lose this game, you are out. OXG and MNM, lots of pressure on their minds. Thanks so much, James and Ann. When we come back, we'll break things down for a second matchup. NIP, MIBR, see you in a moment.
This game would be completely different. In fact, it might not even exist if the community wasn't there. It's really fed a lot of where we're going, what we're doing, and the stories that we tell.
The great thing about Siege is that it attracts people from cosplay communities, from art communities, and then the gaming community and the competitive community. And the fact that we can all come together and it doesn't really matter, like as long as we talk about Siege.
There's no kind of barrier. Everybody should be allowed to participate, and everybody can grow and get better at art and fall more in love with these characters. It is absolutely important for us to celebrate our artistic community, and it's one of the big reasons why we take the opportunity every SI to dedicate a portion of our celebration to them.
You can go to these events and you sort of see the way people react to your work, and actually to be able to see it in person, it makes you know what you're doing is right and what you're doing, you could improve on. And that is something that I don't ever take for granted, and I am extremely grateful for. It's helped me mature as an artist and as a content creator.
As a person, as an artist, online or offline, I'm more confident to talk about myself. I'm more confident to talk about my art. So it's something that I'm still thankful for the people that I met at the community. We get to meet people from like a completely different continent, and like SI was that opportunity, that one opportunity that we could physically meet and connect with those people.
You go to these events and you find that everybody is from all different walks of life. They speak different languages, are from different countries and cultures, but at the end of the day, we all speak the language of Siege.
As long as you can draw, or as long as you can construct a uniform, you can share kind of your love for Siege. It goes beyond any kind of language barrier that you may have, because everybody kind of shares the same passion together.
Welcome back, friends, to the Analyst Desk, the Command Center, whatever you want to call it. I'm Medic, your host for the show, and with me are two spiffing lads on the desk. I don't even know what that word means, but I watched the spiffing Brit, and he's nice, so that's what I'm going to say. Tea in the morning. Here we go. We got Demo, and we got Ollie. Friends, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, thank you, Milosh. I don't think I've ever been introduced to spiffing before.
It's a new one for us.
It's a good one, isn't it?
What does it mean?
I'm not sure, honestly.
To be fair,
personally,
I
asked him.
You introduce us a new way every time.
I want to
every time.
Everybody, because you know what? We're all multifaceted and we have many ways around our personalities that one word is just not enough to describe how awesome everybody is. I'm so positive today.
I'm glad.
I love it.
It's good. It's good. I think the desk, obviously now, I think I like the fact that maybe we're standing only, which I know suits me and you a little bit better. We can kind of move, which I think is a nice one.
James was having fun lying down.
Telestrator is fun as well. Hopefully we get some more of that. Obviously Telestriker Breaker over here, but hopefully I want you to have another go.
I go away for 10 minutes, well, for a few hours yesterday.
We'll show you later.
We'll show you later.
Oh boy. Well, we got a few things to figure out here. Friends, how about we talk about our matches? And again, how is it that we always get the LATAM boys on the LATAM games? This was decided like 2 days ago before we even knew what this game was. But here we are, MIBR versus NIP. Let's go with MIBR first on the screen for you. The team has made it here. They made it as the last team to qualify into the Invitational, and they've been waiting for their opponents. Hit it up. And NIP. So, what can MIBR show, Emil?
Oh, well, this team, big roller coaster really throughout the year. Have to keep in mind still the third place team from the last Invitational, but they've been on some ifs and buts. We've seen injuries come in for Felipox. He couldn't play inside Stage 2 BR6. It was looking really bad for them. We thought, okay, where does this team go? But they were able to kind of lift their spirits, going into Stage 3, getting some wins underneath their belt, and finally making their way through the qualifiers, where they were undoubtedly going to make it here nonetheless. You know, we think about Brazil as a region, because we have so many teams qualifying into this competition, it means that it gives, you know, MIBR, who are still, I think, part of that big six inside of Brazil, it gives them a nice open pathway into this competition.
The fact that there's a big six as well, as you put it there, is it's a little bit ridiculous, isn't it? We're going to get a bit of a view here of the team, just having a little pre-game huddle. We haven't seen the top or the bottom of this side yet, realistically. We've seen a couple of good performances coming out of players like Felipox. I think Redux is maybe one for me, Demo, that stood out more.
I think, surprised me.
You know, you'd usually be looking toward Lukid or someone like that'd fill that role. Redux can be a little bit 50-50, but he has been performing here at 6 Invitational, and I think we just get a little cheer, Milosh.
Yep, it's always good to have the teams kind of cheering between one another, because we do it in a certain way as well, right? We huddle up, I tell everybody they're beautiful, and everybody's kind of feeling good, and then we head into it. Look at these beautiful lads, though. It's NIP. The team that made it through, though, they made it through pretty much at, you know, the top parts of their group, not the first for them, and they got taken down by North America. I love how loud they get. 2-0'd by TSM. That's really got a feel for the reigning world champions that have to fight through the lower bracket.
That's the point we need to push through. These are the defending world champions. This is ninjas in pajamas, and they are at the kind of gateway of exiting the competition so early on. If you're a world champion side, you should be up there. You know, you should be making that upper bracket and looking to go back to back. But for NIP, it's not a good position at all.
Everything that NIP are doing at the moment looks like it's taking them all of their effort. It looks impossibly difficult for these guys to be picking up rounds and series. We haven't seen the same level of consistency throughout the board that we usually would see. We've seen, you know, there's only 2 players that have got a positive rating, and Muzi sat on a clean 1. So there's only really Pino that's sitting above that positive rating. He's 1.14. Sure, he's plus 26 kills, and he's got a couple of kills on the entry. But everyone else is dragging him down. It's like he's trying to drag a lead balloon. Nobody is pulling the weight in the sense of, you know, you'd look at Psycho. You want to see something out of Psycho. He can be a very dangerous player on his day. Where's this combination? Where's the Pino, Psycho, the Muzi, the little dynamic duos that get out there on the roam? We've not seen it.
from back to back to back against the wall here in the lower bracket. You guys, though, have a player comparison for us to make. So when we're ready, we can just show it. You know, one player from each one of these two teams, head-to-head. So we'll be seeing more of them as we go through. And it's Felipox and Pino. What's the comparison for us to look for, Demo, here?
It's the two Impact players. I wouldn't say that both teams have played to their highest level that we've seen them play at before. Keep in mind, it's the third place from against third from last year, and to not see all five step up, somebody had to do it to get them to this stage. And for NIP, it's certainly been Pino. He's been miles in front of the rest of his team. And Felipox, I mean, the impact that this guy has had since coming back from his injury, it's been a big reason why MIBR were able to survive in the regular season, and also why they were able to get into this competition through that open qualifier.
And I think we ask for as much from these guys as we can. You know, they've got to continue to give that performance. Felipox, you really can't fault the guy. Stage 3 was almost perfect from, you know, what his role is and what he needs to achieve on the team. But I'd just like to see both of those players activated now. It would have almost been nice, Milosh, to do a 4 versus 4 player comparison and leave those two out, because it really comes down to the other 4 players that they're the ones that you need to be looking at.
Our SI graphics editor right now is shaking in his boots thinking, oh my God, they're asking for another bracket. I'm going to stay up to 4 in the morning again to get this ready. Well, you know what? A lot to cover. There's a lot of stats and not enough time really to go through all the details in the theory crafting. But one thing we do have to go through is our map ban. Let's put them up on the screen again. 7 map pool, ban, pick, ban, decider. Demo, take it away.
Clubhouse ban from MIBR, respect. I think we've seen TSM yesterday, they banned Clubhouse against NIP, and it did wonders for them. NIP, they were 8-0 on Clubhouse. You need to remove that map straight away, so I'm really happy to see MIBR go out of the way to do that. Oh, a Kafe and a Coastline. These are the same 2 maps that I believe that NIP had against TSM yesterday.
Yep, NIP are going to be familiar with these 2 maps indeed. And it is going to be MIBR to take them to Kafe. So MIBR obviously feeling like they've done a little bit of homework there. They're going to be more than happy to meet NIP in the field on Kafe. Coastline, it's been a bit 50-50 of late for NIP. They haven't had the greatest success on there, despite it historically being a very good map for them.
But then again, neither of MIBR, so that's probably a reason why I think NIP have went for that pickup.
Well, there's the big question again. LATAM v LATAM, who can survive? NIP? Will it be them, the team that has won the last Invitational? Can they make it deeper into the tournament and be at least on equal footing with G2, the only other team that has ever won 2 SIs, and that's about it? Or will MIBR survive, dig their heels in, and then move it through the lower bracket, go up against SSG? Big questions on everybody's minds. Let's answer them in game. OXG v MNM, NIP, MIBR. Thanks so much, boys. Let's go into game.
Thank you very much, Milosh, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to day 2 of the playoffs here at the 6th Invitational 2022. Yesterday was a safe day as all of our matches were played inside of the upper bracket, and while there were losses, there was no eliminations. But if you saw Parker's tweet, we're going to be eliminating half of our teams over the course of today, cutting it down from 16 all the way to 8. Our first matchup here on the main stream, we're going to see MNM face off against Oxygen. Oxygen, of course, having a rough go of it yesterday versus FaZe Clan, leading them to be the first team to be knocked down into the lower bracket, and MNM obviously having their fair share of difficulties inside of the group stage, left them inside of the lower bracket from the get-go of things. So who will face off? Who will come out on top of this one? Well, we'll have to find out. We had the LATAM versus North American matchup to start yesterday off, and now it's EU versus NA today. Stokes, what do you make of this game?
I'm so very excited for this one, John. This is all came to this moment. One of these teams has to come home, and, well, it's going to be a bare-knuckle brawl to find out who it is. Luckily enough, we won't have to wait very long in order to start this one off. It's MNM versus Oxygen as we start things here off on Kafe. Now, the thing that you have to talk about when it comes to these two teams is, well, first things first for Oxygen, they just haven't been hitting their mark when it comes to what they expected at this tournament. And for MNM, I honestly think that they've been doing a whole heck of a lot better than they assumed that they were going to do. They just came here to play, and they've been doing a bang-up job of this thus thus far. Honestly, with the mentalities coming into this, I feel as though MNM is a little bit ahead just because they're just playing to win. They're just doing their thing. They're excited to be here. They're ready to play for Oxygen. I think there's a lot of weight on their shoulders in the moment, but we'll have to see. Already about halfway through the ban phase here, folks, as Thatcher and Nomad will be removed and Wamai will be added to the pile.
Why going to be an interesting one here? We've obviously been seeing the huge increase in nade kills happening this LAN that's been giving attackers overall a bit of a boost here and knocking out one of the three key pieces of utility that can mitigate some of that utility being chucked back in. Certainly going to make things a bit easier for our friends on MNM on the attacking side. Either way, let's get started with things as our final ban does work its way in. We end up with an elimination there to start things off. Let's get ourselves into the round, though, as it's going to be Valkyrie as the final ban there. Making perfect sense for a Kafe map. Once again, she has quite a few spots with all the clutter inside of this map to hide those cameras. Not to mention the capability still to chuck those outside and get some intel as well. So definitely one to get rid of quite commonly, as I believe she's still our most banned attacker, or not attacker, excuse me, most banned operator overall this tournament.
Yes, she is indeed. Up almost at 80% now. As yesterday she was still a little over 75, but as we continue to have these games and have a larger sample size, she will continue to slowly raise. Not at a crazy rate, obviously, but I'm sure we will end up at right around that 80% mark just because of how useful she is across every single one of our maps. And speaking of useful, we did end up seeing a Mira come in, but that was 6 picked off of because of the site that we're going to. Oxygen wants to start downstairs. A little bit of a throw off here just to try and see if MNM could possibly assume that it's going to be a top floor offense and switch out one of their operators for some different material to see if they can possibly affect that site in a different way, but obviously we will be starting things off in the basement.
Yeah, still an effective utility kit coming in for MNM, specifically with the Habana being added. That's going to allow them to deal with some of these more tricky walls to knock out, such as specifically the bakery access point here. But interesting to note again, no Thatcher being eliminated. However, MNM are not going to bring it to these Kane Electric Claws. Possibility to stay present for quite a deep point inside of the round here, as MNM are going to have to manually figure out where those are, and for the most part, try to land either a frag grenade or one of the Zofia charges in position to find those. The good news, though, since it is on the first floor hold, they should be able to accomplish that without too much delay. The hardest part's going to be finding them, not necessarily taking them out, because they should have top-down access with their sledge pretty early on here.
Absolutely. Also have some access to frag grenades and access to vertical as well as he jumps back in. Keno will be able to assist in that. Nello trying to tag some people up, but he'll only tag up vertical. It's not even that much at the end of the day either. He'll more than likely just go back to a Kona station and heal himself up, but a fantastic start here to Oxygen, something that we'll more than likely continue to see up against MNM as they try and get ahead of this aggression.
Vertical, another player that you're going to want to be paying close attention to inside of this series. He's had relatively mixed results on a match-to-match basis so far, but seems to be heating things up here, judging from the game versus FaZe yesterday. Obviously not enough to outright beat them, but certainly way more present than the group stage. Things are going to be exchanged, though, after that opening pick from him, as now Solitov gets on the board first for MNM by finding the pickup against Laxing and knocking out the Cade from play here. Apparently a very nice shot as well, as Laxing hands out some mutual respect after his death.
Some scary shots to be landed, and Solitov hoping that somebody will more than likely check coat check here. Vertical drop back into Fraser's. Oxygen will just wait things out and see what MNM's next move will going to be. Looks like coat check will end up being repopulated by Oxygen as frag grenades start to go in, but MNM have not been able to make any progress in the moment. Yaga will be holding onto this with Foxay on brown stairs. They still have Keno inside of VIP as well. MNM have to do something here. Frag grenade goes in, and that's going to be an easy frag here for Yaga, but he won't be able to collect the second. That will be up to Foxay, but not before Nello can strike as well. It's down to the 2 versus 2 here for the last minute.
It's going to be slow built up here, but a nice strike from Yuzu as he's able to find out Keno and eliminate him, leaving only Vertical alive in the site. Talked about this as a player you were going to have to watch, and now you don't really have a choice. He's the only one left here for Oxygen inside of a 1v2. He's going to shoot that out. As a quick reminder, those Kona stations can be used by members of MNM as well, so doesn't want to potentially give his opponents a free boost up, specifically Nello, as he's been lit up a little bit here. Still some building to do for MNM, or rather some deconstruction, as they'll need to open up the freezer wall access point. Vertical going to get a little bit thrown off by this one, just in the event that they try to use this as a mass to swing in through the big opening, but not going to catch him so quickly. Oh, what a find from Vertical, though. A pixel peek, and it knocks out Yuzu to take him out, and a second one as well. A beautiful clutch from Vertical to start out the map as Oxygen go up 1-0.
Big one here from Oxygen. What a way to start off the match, especially for Vertical's sake, is he's been missing in action for Oxygen quite a lot inside of these series. So to see him pop off so early here, this could be a telltale sign of what's to come. For MNM, though, they're going to have to try and find a way to deal with this aggression as well as this positioning from Oxygen. Specifically here inside of the coat check area, they just really don't have any idea of what's going on. They're trying to push in through lobby and face check a lot of things. They're just not being dynamic with their info game right now, so we're looking to them to change that up on this offensive side. Obviously, Kafe does tend to lean towards the defensive side, but we'll have to see. I'd say, especially with the Kaid being in with Thatcher banned, this is going to be a little difficult to get into certain spots, but as John was talking about before, if MNM are able to find some intel and use those frag grenades well, they can definitely still get some very serious walls open.
It's going to be a shift up to the second floor here now for Oxygen as things go quite swimmingly on their first floor hold, even with it being a closely fought round. Vertical has very nice control over the scenario, gets a 3-peat inside of that one, and is able to clutch it out as well here. So they'll move up towards the second floor hold with the expected extension coming in towards Cocktail Freezer and the White Bathrooms here as well, so they can try to bleed out the time bank a little bit for the MNM roster as things get deeper and deeper into the round here. For MNM, nothing really going to change for them. I believe they'll bring a very similar operator lineup to the table. Finka now in play, of course, for Celtop, but I'm pretty sure we had that in the last round as well, so no surprises here for MNM as they're obviously going to be approaching things a little bit differently too.
The only surprise is that he's running the spear, but obviously it's up to you what gun you want to choose. But we obviously usually see that 100-round LMG coming into play for Finka, just because it synergizes so very well with the kit. Also have Neo out here as well, more than likely running the LMG on his end. His Tyrant trying to take the fight around VIP. It's going to be on to Yaga here. Just joining 1v1 between the two. We'll see if anybody wants to join the party and try and assist. Foxe moving over towards Brown, so we could have a new wrench here to possibly assist, especially with this crunch coming in on the back end, but Solotov ready for the Brown Stairs players. He'll take down Foxe. Yaga now stuck in between a couple of different people, but he'll be able to trade things out for Solotov, looking for his second as well. Pre-fire and Boo's window, but at least one home here, but just doesn't have the angle just yet. Neo trying to push in on the back end as Oxygen will resurge into the area. Kino now coming down on White, and Oxygen very aware of how MNM want to try and clear this out. They are not afraid to throw bodies at these players, and as long as Yaga is hitting shots like this, it should be fairly easy to drain MNM's man count.
Again, picking things up well here for the Oxygen roster. Kino could be forced back, though, via frag grenade, but he's able to dodge a good amount of the damage there, keeping himself in the fight. Problem is, he has lost Yaga a little bit deeper out as Nello is able to take him down, and that brings us into another even scenario at a 3v3 here, more than likely pulling back most of the Oxygen members into the site as well, forcing respect from the bottom, not necessarily up on top, but I'll correct myself, seeing that we do actually still have presence on the third floor from Oxygen. They'll be relying on that to re-descend against the MNM take, should they try to go for one here in this last minute and a half.
Oh, this is perfect here from Vertical. He'll find not only the case, but Nello as well as we go into the 2 versus 3. Fantastic fight here from Oxygen thus far, and honestly, the last 2 MNM players not really in any sense of the term near this zip code, so finally dropped down red. Had to move back up towards the roof, but now Vertical's got Case. He's also 4-0 in the moment as well. Laxton and Kino more than likely will hold onto this top floor just because the verticality can really play into their hand, especially as Kino does have that primary shotgun. Users will be allowed to pick up the case, but with very minimal time remaining, this could be all she wrote. Laxton's got a nice cross here for mining as well, and potentially a kill. Yes, indeed. Knows where the last one is as well, but he'll be traded out by Neo. Still has some time to be able to work this, as he'll be able to get the case as well and move out towards pillars. He's got a couple of options here, but with minimal time and no lifelines, it's going to be down to the firepower. He'll get rid of the cam as the smokes start to come out from Kino. That'll be his last one for reading door. He'll double back over towards 90, but Vert seemingly having the cutoff here. Switching things over, he does actually still have some impacts inside of the other end of that tube, so Neo try and use that to get rid of the Banshee, but Kino will end him all in the same process. Fantastic round there once again from Oxygen.
Cutoff is present, and OXG, a bit of a bumpy road at the beginning of the round there, as once again the trades go a little bit back and forth, but as the numbers are bled down. Thankfully, the top setup had been barely touched by MNM as they try to insert themselves from the first floor instead, end up paying the price for that due to the dissension that we see from members like Vertical inside of the mid-round. That ultimately was not properly scouted out and allows for those remaining members of Oxygen to go crazy inside of the 3v3 to shut it down without too much of an issue there. We're going to see actually the next second floor hold as well. Oxygen not favoring a play on the third floor site just yet. A little bit too straightforward oftentimes, and the way the defenders have to set themselves up, and obviously making it a bit too straightforward about how the attackers need to proceed through it as well. They'll go to one where they can have a bit more variance in their play and hopefully hide a few more things, allowing for them to find these openers versus MNM once again and obscure things to once more drain out the time bank.
And if you notice, we continue to get the 6-pick off of the mirror from Oxygen as well. And again, that just goes into the overall strategy of Kafe. That top floor, you're always going to see Mira if she is available, just because she plays so very well into that site. You can put them on Freezer, you can put it on the cocktail walls to see out to long bar, and it's a lot of information to influence what can go on later into the round. So 6-picking away from that for your other sites is really, really smart, because MNM will be looking to other utility, possibly if they have some sort of execute set up for that. You could see something like Buck or something worked in, or even Twitch for Solitov to try and get rid of those mirror windows. But luckily enough for Auction, they won't have to worry about that too much. Obviously, the Twitch drone still can get a lot done, but the biggest issue for that now is that, well, they have Mozzie as well as Mute, and that doesn't work too well when you're trying to drive a drone around the map.
So let's see here what the opening play yields for MNM. What they might try to build towards is obviously Oxygen are going to prep themselves for some shenanigans, which should be no surprise to the Oxygen viewers out there. A little double tap out inside of the cigar room to try and blow this up in the event that they find a possible swing to the outside that they could go for a hop, be able to take out one of the members of MNM, but not necessarily going to find that this
that was a nice catch.
Here.
They ended up, so they fired a yokai drone all the way up through the skylight. You can actually jump it up through the skylight space, and what a catch from Solitov. Speaking of which, I'm able to take out Vertical, who goes flying out another window here in round 3 and gets caught. But yeah, you can actually end up using those yokai drones to push those up through the skylight and see who's on roof, but they were able to get rid of at least one of those. So Laxine will more than likely be holding onto the second one as either prevent or extra information. We saw him do this yesterday to try and assist his team, and more than likely do this again today.
So MNM with control in the early round, and no initial response to be seen from Oxygen as of yet either. So we'll continue to track down on the time, and it's going to be a pretty slow build-up ultimately for MNM, as they still hold only third floor control without having flushed out the cocktail side either. So we're about 25% of the way to getting to a workable execute point here, as we cross the halfway point on the overall round. Solitov, though, with a good lineup. Will he get the swing? Probably not anymore, as that drone was going to get spotted out either by Foxy or Kino, whoever's playing on the third floor hold right now. That player also, I believe, falls back through the janitor hatch, works themselves into safer quarters down on the second floor here. As now, no! An opening made seemed like a perfect lineup for Solitov's second, but instead it's going to need to be a trade from Yuzu, and Tyron as well, adding one more to the equation as MNM finally take decent control here and bring it down to a 4v2.
Oxygen seriously needed some help on that top floor, specifically for Foxy, but nobody even in the space to be able to assist him. It's down to Kino and Yaga now. The SAS op needing to get a lot done here, seemingly aware that someone's inside of reading with that SMG-11 in hand. Still has a couple of options here. Could rotate out towards the hallway as well, but oh no. Could have him on timing here, and he does indeed. Tyron will be able to down him with the ARX, but now Yaga, very aware of the reading player, as will be able to take out his friend, but he'll trade it out here and put it into the 1 versus 3 after the 1 versus 4. The plant's starting to go down in reading, though, and this means that we need to see Yaga get something done. The biggest issue is no nitro cell in the moment. Very low HP as well. He doesn't know where the remaining members of MNM are. No info to influence this situation at all, and it's a sad day right now for an Oxygen fan. Yaga trying to push up through 90. He'll challenge into mining, but it'll be Nello to deliver the death blow as they will take their very first round.
So a slow and steady pace is the equation that adds up here for the MNM roster, as they're able to negotiate their initial round against the second floor, well, the second floor hold from Oxygen, and that's finally going to force them into newer pastures here, I guess older pastures in this case, as they're going to return to the first floor hold. Unfortunately, not able to make that mining position work out better for them, just like they were able to do a few rounds back at reading. However, this is now going to need to be a correction from MNM, and honestly not a huge one, as MNM nearly had control over this attack as well when it was tried back on round number 1. Ultimately just allowed Vertical way too much comfort to play into the site, into his position over towards Kitchen, however, and that allowed for him to clutch it out in a 1v2. So some slight corrections in that area, and MNM should be on a good path to try and claim their own second round here and possibly tie us up at a 2-all scoreline.
We'll head back downstairs towards kitchen here and see if Oxygen want to go with a similar setup. They did have the extension the last time out towards the VIP, and they were able to deal a lot of damage to MNM earlier as they were trying to figure out exactly what they could do with this east end of the map. Fortunately enough for them, they got all the picks necessary to start pressuring the site, but bad news bears, they had to deal with Vertical as well, and he was able to secure 3 frags inside of that one. More than likely won't see him flying out of a window inside of this, as that will more than likely be telestrated just like it happened inside of round 1. Yaga will be able to deny some info inside of the lobby space, but doesn't choose to put on the lobby door. He'll back it up for the lobby door towards bottom brown instead, and that'll assist Kino in a certain light if they do try and end up droning out this space. But again, they'll more than likely know what's going on in this area, just given the circumstances of what happened the last time, and that's exactly why Oxygen are going to switch gears here and try and move some bodies around some other ends of the map.
So a pretty uneventful opening few seconds of the round here, as MNM is not going to try and throw any bodies directly into the building, spending a lot of additional time, 4 players in fact at the moment on drone duty, with only Solotov moving in on their own, as he just takes the initial bakery control and has access to the swing into service. But obviously won't see much of a response there from Oxygen, or Prep Kitchen rather, not service. He's going to work himself up just to take care of the barbed wire and all these other little pieces of utility that shouldn't be too problematic to knock out before we start to see a response come in from the defensive side.
MNM taking their sweet time this time around. You can see the drone game not necessarily working out this time, John. Only 3 drones, and they're all in pockets at the current moment.
Wow, yeah, only a minute into the round.
Yes, indeed. That is not the best for drone economy, and Vertical with yet another pick here, but this time it's not outside. He stays in the building and gets himself a kill. A frag grenade coming in onto him, but it's not cooked properly as Vertical's able to just move out of the way. We'll grab the Kona station, though, as Kino gets concussed here by Neo. A great smoke, though, will hold Neo back. He cannot push whilst being adrenal surged. I mean, he could, but he'd take a lot of damage in the process, as smoke is one of Finka's counters. Solotov now inside of the small bake area. He'll be holding things down here with the spear, but he's going to run out of bullets, and that's the biggest issue about having an AR against the LMG. Foxy will finally pressure him, and now MNM are falling to pieces. Another kill comes in here from Vertical. Kino will be able to claim Nello, and it's all down to Tyrant, who finally kills Kino.
Tyrant sneaking in for the quick exchange against Kino is one step here, but 4 more need to be checked up before he can claim this round, as his teams won't pan out, as the rest of Oxygen are going to come swinging outside of the kitchen area and shut him down relatively quickly. That's a quick response coming in for the Oxygen roster, and their lead now reasserted at 3-1. And Vertical again showing us some good stuff on that first floor hold. Currently with a 6-1 scoreline as he dominates the early rounds here on the kitchen holds.
Looking very solid, and for MNM, they continue to go direct here as well. We really don't see them have any influence inside of the mid floor. They're really just trying to influence things via a white hallway as well as lobby, and it's simply not working out for them in the moment. It's giving so many gunfights over to not only Yogg, but also over to Vertical as well, and not in a situation where MNM can necessarily win out the engagement. That's the biggest problem right now. They have some ideas that aren't necessarily bad, like the frag grenade, right, going in towards Whiskey, but it's just too little too late at that point, and also just not properly utilized in the sense of, well, you didn't cook it, and that's the big problem there. So you're able to, well, for Oxygen's sake, get away from that situation and just continue to utilize this man advantage to the nth degree, which is really, really hard, especially on a map like Kafe that is difficult to attack, especially on low man. So it's just one of those issues that MNM, if they're not able to fix, are more than likely going to die from, just simply because Oxygen will get so very far ahead. But we'll have to see, you know, once we cross that bridge, if MNM can possibly make a stand on their defensive side.
MNM's possible issues, I think, with the pacing of their attacks here as well. Oxygen are going for these way more aggressive plays against them, and oftentimes is working out, specifically, again, calling back to the first floor holds we saw on rounds 1, and then the last one we just played out there. No real attempts to try and aggressively trade them out, though, is being seen from MNM until they lose, oftentimes, another player on top of that, and at that point, they're in a 3v5, and in my book, that's where you'd want to cool that off and not necessarily want to risk any further players, but MNM suddenly, at that point in the round, seem to be almost doubling, if not tripling down on these scenarios, causing them to fall further into a deficit, as we just saw there on round number 4.
Oxygen doing their best to try and stave off elimination, but you can say the same about MNM. Whoever loses this best of 3 is taking a first-class flight home, so we'll be leaving Sweden
I don't know about that.
I mean, I'm trying to be nice here. You don't know what these orgs make, John. They make mad money, dude. Mad money. You're trying to tell me that esports doesn't make money? I'm just kidding. Either way.
I'm trying to say there's limited first-class seats on a flight.
Yeah, no, that's very true. But I mean, you know, sometimes you want to be nice to your team when they lose a massive tournament, and you're just like, you know what, guys, you enjoy getting on the plane first and having drinks served to you before everybody else. The peasants in the back of the plane.
All right,
like me, I'm the peasant at the back of the plane.
Let's see as MNM tries to clear things out on the third floor hold. Once again, there'll be a lot to contend with as Oxygen have the expected setup over towards White Stairs and Cocktail. This is a good overwatch from Tyrant, though. We can see a member of Oxygen thinking about the hop out here. It's going to be Yaga. He's got that window open and everything already as well, so it will be a very easy task for him to commit to it, but it's going to be Laxing to strike first, I believe, on the entry through Hell. Actually, no, probably over here towards Red Stairs somewhere. Tyrant will be able to exchange it at a minimum by finding Vertical with a very well-placed frag, but aside from that, though, first kill of the round still ends up going to our friend Laxing as he takes down Solotov.
Well, and that's going to secure it here as Oxygen able to claim more than half of the opening bloods on this side, as they've already claimed half of the rounds as well. But obviously MNM able to find the equalizer here and hopefully get something done here in the last minute. But on this mid floor, a couple of different possibilities. Oh, Laxing might be running into some trouble here at the Hell door, but he gets back in. So fortunate that he's Kaid in the moment. Any other op that has a 2 armor or 1 armor is dusted in that situation. So fortunately for him, he'll be able to back off, especially with that verticality coming into play as well. Smoke starting to come out here as Foxy's looking for the flank up top, and this could pay massive dividends as there's not a single soul in this area, minus the drone that's currently being watched by Solotov, as that'll be destroyed though. So he's stuck back to watching his teammates and trying to see what they can possibly achieve. 15 seconds remain as Tyrant will clean up the kill down low, but Yaga fires back. Kino taking a lot of heat as well going into the 3 versus 3. Sees the man cross. His reading will be the site to try and get this plant down. Uses with the cross as well. Sees one inside of Pillar, but can he win it? He can indeed. Needs to cover yet again here, but the shot's just not landing. He'll stick Laxing as well, and now it's the 1v2 for Kino, but he's on such very low HP. This M590 could get a lot done, but will the initial blast get much? It will not. It'll be Tyrant instead, as the timing's just too solid for MNM. They'll clean up so many bodies on the re-entry from Oxygen.
So I'll take back what I said at the end of the last round. The slow play actually working out quite well here for the members of MNM as they're able to catch some more of the aggressive tendencies from Oxygen. Got a good read as to what the setup looks like in the process as well without necessarily having to drain their drone count, as that was becoming an issue in some previous rounds. And through that slow process of sussing out the positions, eventually find a path into the site, find an execute route at low timing, especially with that great entry coming in, I believe, from Tyrant as well. Those 2 picks were absolutely critical there. If he doesn't win either one of those fights, the round is more than likely over in the favor of Oxygen.
I love how active he was inside of that situation as well, because traditionally when you're having somebody just set a plant down, you're just Overwatch. You're standing there, you're just going to hold an angle and make sure that people don't try and pressure into the room. But instead of doing that, what we see from Tyrant is we see him stuff different locations inside of the area that he knows that they want to try and reclaim. The biggest one there being Laxing coming in through Janitor or Laundry, and that situation right there more than likely won them the round. If not, Laxing as well as his teammate are able to actually work reading as a unit, and it would just be so very easy to try and win out that situation, as it would technically be a 1 versus 2 while the case is going down, and it's much easier, much more palatable, you could say, for Oxygen in a situation like, or MNM rather, or no, I was right the first time, Oxygen in a situation like that. Either way though, as we get to our last round here, round 6 now for MNM to try and tie us up, as they've bounced back on their offensive side.
Absolutely the case, and a 3-3 tie would certainly be very, very winnable for them as they work their way on to the defensive end of this map on round number 7. But for Oxygen, they will not be happy with that. It's interesting too, Oxygen completely dodging the 3rd floor play here. Not a single round going to be used on it, despite the fact that they use it quite heavily, of course, to play into their 2nd floor holds. But once again, for the reasons that I had been stating previously, where this 3rd floor site is just a little bit too played out, I think, for some teams. They want to shy away from that one, as it's a bit too predictable and far too easy for the attackers to tear apart a lot of setups there.
Yes, indeed. Is there about 45 seconds in here now? MNM looking to try and clear out this top floor. A nade to come down, a nitro cell out, a yokai as well. I don't know if that was destroyed from the explosive device, but we'll have to find out a little later on. Foxay will hightail it out of that situation as things were getting a little dire. Lots of heat coming into the top floor in the current moment. Tyrant with some nades in towards reading as he thought he had a read on a location inside of there, but clearly not. Oxygen will drop off of the top floor as they'll continue to hold on to white, at least for vertical's sake. Still plenty of time for MNM to get a hold of things and begin sledging up this floor at a moment's notice for Yeezus. As for the rest of them, just simply waiting around the area to see if they can cut off Oxygen's rotations. They've been constantly holding on to the held door to see if they can get any of the Oxygen players to come over towards pillars. More than likely lead to the opening blood here for MNM, but nothing really going on. Oxygen playing this one close to the chest as they've electrified the hatches, and another Electroclaw awaits delivery.
Good 2 minutes bled out here from Oxygen, and still plenty of presence extended up into the third floor. We can see Laxing there with at least one other player supporting him, and they'll need to try and bleed this out. Tyrant is going to work his way in and actually find a relatively open reading room here, so the actual Tyrant, once the clone fades away, will push it as well due to the fact that there is no resistance here from OXG. That's, of course, until Vert can get himself in position by the peek hole made over inside of Janitor, and he shuts him down for the first kill on the round.
That's so unfortunate. MNM, well, specifically Tyrant's teammate upstairs, actually making that hole and it being abused by Vertical. The reverse way, obviously, as they were just trying to simply get him out of that laundry space. Frag grenade, but it's going to be botched. It'll drop down into white. MNM have to hop two in the moment. 20 seconds remain here. Laxon looking for a kill as he's inside of hell. Foxy will actually be the one to claim it. He's just now looking to see if anyone will be pressuring red, and he'll be correct in his assumption. Foxy to go down. They need case control, and it's on the red stairwell. Solitov now being pressured from inside a fireplace as well. Laxon to claim a life, and uses to start planning inside of mining. But where's the stop for this? Are they aware that this plan is going down? They are. Vertical with the stop with a nitro, as well as a frag coming from the SMG-11, as they'll pull ahead here on the defensive side.
It's a successful win on all three of the sites that OXG chose to play into over the course of this half, with a few bumps in the road, obviously, on the initial mining play and the secondary reading room play here, leaving us with a 2-4 scoreline on MNM's attacking side, as that's going to flip now, and we're going to see them head over onto the defense. Oxygen hold the lead, though, with 4 in their pocket, mainly off of the great play we've been seeing from, I would say, Vertical more than anyone here. He's been doing a fantastic job, especially holding near the site. Whenever a member of MNM has gotten close, he has usually been the one to take the duel and oftentimes win it here, adding a presence for this squad that we haven't necessarily been seeing up until this point.
Yeah, I believe the only day that we saw Vertical really playing like this was the first day of playing in pools. So that's pretty insane to honestly think of, especially from our second best fragger in all of NA inside of Stage 3. So glad to have him back in the moment. I'm sure that Oxygen are breathing a sigh of relief when it comes to that. But now for MNM, they've got a long road ahead of them. Headed towards the mid floor here. They'll be holding onto the top floor as well. Castle setup. So we'll see where Yeezus wants to put these 4 castle barricades. He's also got the bulletproof for some extra insight. Tyrant as well as Neo will be running the Mute Mozzie combo that we're also very accustomed to try and deny some extra intel coming in from OXG.
Not a lot of surprises for MNM in terms of this setup here. The castle barricades adding a little bit of extra reinforcement capability just to mainly slow down the clear from Oxygen, but with Yogg on the sledge, I doubt it'll be too much of an obstacle in their overall plans here. Gives possibly a few members of MNM that capability to make a few crosses here, and the interesting pickup, of course, for Oxygen that I'm sure you folks at home have noticed by now is Laxing bringing the track singers in here to try and restrict the rotation points a bit more. Not an operator we see too often here in the current Siege meta, but we have been seeing her pop up from time to time over the last 2 months or so.
Well, the beauty of her in this current moment is that she does indeed have an LMG. Now, it is a little bit different. If you guys are up to snuff on your guns inside of Siege, you'll know that this is the M249 Saw, whereas, well, Anello not going to really have a life anymore, but whereas Capitao just has the M249. She actually technically has less bullets than he does because hers is mag-fed instead of just being like the big basket on the bottom. So there's a couple less mags, or a couple less bullets rather, inside of that mag, but still more than your average Joe. So they'll be happy to have that along for the ride, as well as the track stingers being very well applied to the stairwells, especially on a map like Kafe, where they are the utmost importance, and obviously no Oryx being played. So those will be locked up for the time, as Solotov trying to fend off the ticket players. So many different angles being adapted here by Oxygen. X-Kairos to go off on the bathroom reinforcement as well, limiting Solotov's presence even further as he continues to try and stick in the space.
Yeah, really gonna try and stick it as well. We've got 3 different members of Oxygen bearing down on his position here. So he's gonna continue to try and maintain this spot. This becomes more and more dangerous to hold it the longer he sits here. But every time a member of Oxygen sees him, that slows down their attack also. Yaga taking a massive amount of damage in the meanwhile here. I think in a fight versus Tyrant, if I heard the gun sound correctly. He'll have to fall away from that one though, and there won't be any true victor from it, as Yaga gets a nice little boost up, thankfully, due to those adrenal surges coming out from Vertical.
Well, ever since Nello's faltered, there really hasn't been all that much going on, but that has to change here in this last minute. You can see the stack of OXG members inside of the 90 hallway at the current moment. Stun's starting to pour in as Tyrant attempts to stop this from going on. Jesus up top has the opportunity to try and get a frag here, especially down low, but it's Vertical instead with a fantastic read on this situation as Oxygen begin to pick the site setup to pieces. The 3 versus 5 now as Solotov moves forward, but it'll be immediately traded out by Yogg. He gets tagged up, but he gives about as good as he gets. As Tyrant now on low HP as well, and this situation starting to look nigh impossible for the MNM members unless somebody can do something magical. Tyrant still trying to man this situation inside of the red hallway, but he's been dusted. Now it's up to Nello. Does he have the prevent Nitro cell out, but it's too far.
Not the plant though.
Looks like he will be able to try and challenge, and it'll be Yaga yet again here, as he'll be able to take down the reading player and pull ahead even farther to 5-2 scoreline.
Even though it doesn't stop the plant, the Overwatch is solid here. OXG not suffering from the same issue we saw happening from time to time on that defensive half, where they tended to give away a few too many 1v1s over to the members of MNM. That's how at least one round was thrown away and put into the European team's pocket. Looking a lot cleaner here for OXG on the attacks, even compared to the game versus FaZe yesterday, but that's only a single round on this attacking side. We still have to test the full breadth of this one, and we're going to go to a site that surprisingly we have yet to play into so far in this map. The 3rd floor hold coming up here for MNM, and they've got not only a Mira, but a Clash as well. So this will be very annoying for Oxygen to work past.
Yeah, and at a base level, they have some of the most basic plain Jane ops you can possibly bring inside of Siege. It's double SAS and Jaeger, John. What else would you possibly expect in a situation like this? We'll have the mute jammers as well as the smokes and the ADSs to try and prevent some throwables. Past that, the interesting picks obviously are the Mira. We talked about her on Oxygen's side. She's really only utilized on this top floor because of the, well, information that you can get in a lot of different senses, as they'll be able to play the cross here for the bathroom to look out towards default plant for long bar, as well as the Mira inside of this stack space to look into Christmas and try and assist with that situation. Past that, Neo more than likely be manning the long bar or the white hallway towards Pixel, just to make sure that Oxygen can't pressure this player inside of bathroom. It's a solid setup for MNM, but there's a lot of counterplay here for Oxygen that they can possibly utilize to deal some serious damage to this defense.
It's going to be a slow build-up, as you guys have come to expect here. Oxygen only just now starting to rappel their way up onto the 3rd floor after spending that first minute or so droning things out here, and they'll probably continue to do so once they maintain initial top area positions here. But in just a moment, they will realize where the blockade is going to be present at, most notably through the Clash over by Pixel Hold, with an additional support being set up for Solotov inside of the bathroom. Like I said, annoyance is the main name of the game here for MNM right now. They want to try and slow this down, cause as many blunders as possible with utility usage from the Oxygen side, and the more that gets wasted, the more that gets whiffed, the easier MNM will have of a time closing this round down.
Track Singers down not only the top of red, but the bottom of red as well. It's been completely locked up by the Oxygen members. They don't want a single MNM rotation coming through, even though it could possibly have an impact somewhere, but obviously not the case this time around. So unfortunate, as well, for MNM, they're more than likely going to stick to their guns in the top floor. They'd have to shoot every single one of those Track Stingers individually, and that would take some time. And with this kind of a setup, they more than likely want to try and deal with Oxygen directly instead. instead. Yaga with a frag grenade here, but they definitely know about this repel. Some shots going down, vertical, possibility to lose his life in that situation, but fortunately enough for him, the shot simply won't land. Kino taking a little bit of damage here, but he'll be buffed back up by the adrenal surges as smokes start to pour in and burn up these ADSs for a frag grenade to be delivered very soon.
Still chilling here, backing away when the frag grenade comes in, very easily telegraphed by him. No surprises being thrown out by Oxygen. However, a wild cross from Solotov there is going to get caught by Yogg and give OXG the first kill after everything is said and done. Quite surprised by that, actually, but the good news is these positions have still wasted a solid 2 minutes off the clock, and you can see the only control Oxygen have built up towards at this point is Cigar. So they still have a lot of work to do here and not a lot of time to do it.
I hope you guys caught that as Kino was just crawling across the Christmas floor because of the holes that have been made in the freezer wall. Technically speaking, he was not seen there, so doing his best solid snake in a certain sense as they're trying to gather bathroom control. The breaching charge, though, really not working into his favor as it's simply not going on the wall in the moment, but we'll be listening for that to go off. Jesus will be caught up as Yaga will be able to take him down. Tyrant, though, taking quite a bit of damage in the process. Neo trying to slow down the white push here, but they've got the bathroom and a possibility to flood freezer at a moment's notice. Laxing holding the rotation down low. They're worried about the player here on the mirror window, but what they should be worried about is the last remaining member with a gun inside a cocktail. It's all down to the clash, but Neo can't get much done. It's a flawless round here for OXG.
Slowly built up, but indeed flawless from the Oxygen roster as they spend a good first 2 minutes or so of that round analyzing what the positions were going to look like and finding the best path to be able to clear that out as they got deeper and deeper into the site there. Unfortunately, the Gambit played into this round by MNM to bring not only the Mira, but the Clash does not pan out there, as the Clash is actually one of the last to fall also, and doesn't really delay things all that much other than just having the presence inside of there. And unfortunately, the support for the Clash, Solotov, was the first to fall, so after that point, left her kind of out on an island, not able to do all that much. This will cause a pause from MNM as they've fallen into a dangerous point here, quite obviously, now needing to run the 4 rounds consecutively just to trigger overtime. As if not, OXG will have a confident win on map number 1 for Kafe and be well in the lead in the series with a map in their pocket.
Yes, indeed. And just as a reminder, guys, the last time that we ended up seeing Oxygen play this map, it was against MIBR, and they lost 4-7. So to come into this on MNM's map pick, which is Kafe, this is looking pretty risky for them. They need 4 rounds right now on defense. It's definitely doable, but I would definitely not say with the strategy that they just went with. Oxygen did a very bang-up job of taking their time, pacing it out, making sure that MNM can't counteract what they want to do, especially around that white space, forcing the Clash back gradually as they take control of bathroom as well as long bar and begin to pressure that cocktail side. MNM just gave up way too many pieces of the puzzle along the way, and they did not have the manpower to try and fight against Oxygen once they eventually got to their execution. Unfortunate for MNM, but for Oxygen, this is looking very solid. Yaga and Vertical both at 10 kills, and for Vertical, more than likely a sigh of relief.
Yeah, nearly positive ratio for every single member of the Oxygen roster right now. The only exception to that is Laxing, but honestly, not to any huge fault of his own as far as I've been able to tell. At least it's mainly just been, they haven't really needed him to do any of the heavy lifting here. It's been perfectly fine for Yogg and Vertical to do most of that work, with some of the other teammates popping in from time to time. It's actually fairly identical scores also for both Kino and Foxy as we look a little bit deeper onto their own scoreboard. For MNM, though, they have been forced to rotate yet again as they can't really call it a close shave on either of the sites they played into. Perfect drone position there will certainly be used by Oxygen at a later point in this round, so pay attention to that. But of course, MNM have had to go to new harbors once again as they fall back to the first floor to see if maybe, just maybe, this can be their first successful hold on the defensive side. As if not, it's going to be OXG taking the cake here outright.
Perfectly hid in behind that radio. Rainbow Six Siege, the only game where you can get excited about a drone hiding away inside of sight. Traditionally speaking, you see a lot of the drones go back towards the operators initially, just like this. Yaga just keeps on the outside of the building because info game is so very important. Look at the top right of your guys' screens right now. Oxygen has every single one of their drones at their disposal because of how much they mean to the overall, story of your offensive side. You need that info to influence a lot of things. So sometimes those sight drones can be risky, but if you find a gap in the defense and you're able to sneak it in somewhere, it can definitely be the make or break for the round. And we'll have to see if Oxygen have any influence over that bunker or coffee space, depending on what you call it at home. Yago begin breaking up the top floor as Oxygen have already hopped 2. They'll be clearing out this mid-level with the verticality.
Be slow rolling here though, as has been the trademark of this matchup so far. Neither team really being too keen, except for Vertical on the first floor, holding the first half, on trying to take very early fights. MNM, of course, trying to play their lives out simply because they have fallen into such a detrimental point in this matchup. And Oxygen, in the meanwhile, wanting to slowly analyze the situation, I do believe, and avoid making those very same mistakes themselves. Thankfully, Oxygen have been handed a fairly straightforward early round this time, as there's not going to be any extended presence from NM whatsoever outside of the first floor. It's entirely vertically or horizontally held from them, so it's an easy streak here for Oxygen to clear out the second floor and open up a whole bunch of those top-down angles as well. And thankfully, with Laxing's operator choice bringing in the track stingers once again, it's also going to be very easy to restrict any possible surprise rotations that the members of MNM might try to go for.
That was insanely big brain for anybody that caught that at home coming out from Foxe. They droned out where the Electro Claw was downstairs, and they ended up putting 2 X-Kairos pellets on that side so that the explosion would actually end up destroying the Electro Claw. That's truly so smart. Don't have to waste a frag grenade or anything of the sort. Habana has the most hard breach destruction when it comes to her overall kit. She just has so much at her disposal with all of those X-Kairos and your ability to choose the pattern now. So beautifully done from OXG as they'll get that freezer open, but that's really all that's happened. They've been able to gather control of the second floor. 40 seconds remaining here as Tyrant will be the first one to strike.
Tyrant picking up the opener. First time we've seen a first frag from MNM inside of this round. However, it comes to the consequence, I think, of off-site presence here. Foxe already halfway towards a plant, possibility for it to get interrupted, but actually it's just going to be a straight-up retake here, and OXG apparently can do nothing about it. 3 consecutive kills for MNM, not a single response, not a single point of damage coming out for Oxygen until just now. Finally, Yaga able to line up a foot shot from up on top, but it means nothing. This round is virtually over already here. Laxing and Yog have to try and find some way to descend, and it's going to be futile at best here. Both of them absolutely shredded as they try to make the hatch transition. Laxing only just barely making it to the bottom, but very quickly being taken out as well, as no one can make it out of the freezer. And finally, success is found for the European roster as they hold on for 1 of the 4 rounds needed to push them into overtime.
Well, fortunately enough for MNM, they'll stay alive as of right now, but they have to do it 3 more times just to guarantee overtime. And if they really wanted to run it that far, 5 more times in a row if they wanted to take it at its current moment. It'll be an 8-6 score line, folks, as Oxygen already on match points. We are headed back up to Bar Cocktail, and I'm assuming that we are not going to see this same clash setup, and yes, we are not going to get that. Count your lucky stars, Europeans, as MNM will not be attempting the exact same thing that was damnation for their top floor defense the last time around. This time they'll be bringing Maestro as well as the Castle and a Rooney setup. Personally, one of my favorites when it comes to this top floor because of what goes on inside of the cigar space. Please pay attention to the way that this laser gate is set up with the castle barricades. It makes it where you have to drain so much utility, as well as MNM can actually have a player inside of this area, more than likely with a shotgun, or probably be Nello's job here with a deployable shield or something along those lines, to just try and hold on to that top red space. You don't necessarily need the deployable, but it is nice in a certain sense. But we'll have to see what MNM are favoring in this situation. Either way, that shield, or rather castle barricade setup with the laser gate is always an interesting one to point out.
Now, much more traditional setup overall coming here for the MNM roster, as they're going to rely on Maestro's long-range fighting capabilities to hold them on that cocktail exchange going all the way past the main bar in a small cigar. And the rest of the team will focus primarily on the crosses that would be present either from the edge of white, the white bathroom itself near Pixel, or inside of the freezer here. And everybody's going to fall back into those positions over the next few seconds. Still setting himself up, in fact, to support, if he needs to, swing over from cocktail into freezer there. Kino, of course, keeping overwatch just in case the members of MNM want to do anything tricky here. Not looking like it on the second floor so much, but a possibility of a white hop out is here. And of course, Solitov would be the one that would go for that if the stars align. So we'll follow that up in a few moments. And it's actually going to be the lower white door, too. Just opened, though. Solitov immediately turns tail and runs back upstairs. So no immediate action to watch for on this just yet. Mainly just wasting the time of Kino here as we approach the first minute mark.
And that's the fantastic thing about Aruni, is basically her passive ability, if that's the way that you want to think about it. She's got that metal arm, and it's able to destroy doors and windows in one punch, as well as just punch big old holes inside of the walls. She's a pretty strong woman at the end of the day. And it'll be a little bit of a scare here at the bottom white garage space, but don't really have to worry about things too much. Just have to be aware that it's a possibility at the end of the day. Here's that utility burn that we were talking about before. Still have ADSs inside of this space, as now will smoke things off off and continue to hold onto this from the door. But how long will he be able to hold on? And doesn't seem like very long. Foxy will actually find his mark as he backs off and is able to use those railings as a kind of makeshift shield here. So he'll find a gap and be able to secure the kill onto the smoke player. But that's going to be Sakara giving up now, as Oxygen really need to start working their way in towards Christmas. No, wait, does that reset it? Oh, that's so sick. I did not know that the Evil Eyes could actually end up resetting that. That's a fantastic strategy here from MNM.
So Neo is going to position this here and not only be able to dump the intel, but as you mentioned, clear out and reset some of this utility as well. The laser gates do need to be shot at the top of them in order to re-enable them, as they work slightly differently than some of the other forms of mitigation, such as the magnets, which are obviously just one-time use, and the ADSs, which are now on a cooldown. Yuzu finds the first response for MNM as he's able to knock out Foxy. A direct trade for the opener, as Fox was able to find Nello. Less than a minute here, and really not a lot of pressure from Oxygen on any pivotal point in this site at this point here. So MNM are perfectly free to leap back out, retake some of these power positions, such as over towards the freezer peak, and shut down a second member now of Oxygen. Now they have the lead, so they have no further reason to swing up. They're still going to do it. Tyrant at Whitehall gets one more before he goes down. Laxing with a very important double pickup, though, to even out the numbers once again. And it leaves Neo and Usus in the clutch here for MNM as they try to shut this one down with only 15 seconds remaining here. Here comes Oxygen in the meanwhile, clearing out towards the main bar. They want to push forward, but it's Yuzu to strike forward here. Vertical with the first exchange, nearly gets the second, but Neo instead clutches it out here as MNM are halfway to bringing us to overtime.
Foxy with the opening frag, but no full court press coming out of Oxygen. It's a very slow rolling offense yet again that slowly ramps up into this 2 versus 2 after Laxing gets those big picks. But Oxygen still not able to muster the round, and very unfortunate there for OXG, as it really seemed like it was starting to go their way, especially after these big frags yet again here. That looked like the moment that Oxygen could have been waiting for, especially after MNM dealt so much damage from the backline inside of their site setup. But either way, Oxygen still have to try and put MNM 6 feet under here on Kafe, as 2 more rounds stand between MNM and overtime.
So 2 to go. We are going to return to another site that, unfortunately for the MNM fans, they have not been able to win out just as of yet here. And actually, it's going to be a bit of a change-up too, as they're not even going to go for the reading room hold that they tried back on round number 1. It's mining instead. So they'll try to fight this one out here. It's a little bit of a different setup. Mainly comes into the picture towards the late round, is that early hold, that early extension, that time-wasting mechanism that MNM will go for is almost identical to the way you play into reading room there. Just a little bit more pressure going to be deployed towards Cigar there to avoid the top downs from being opened up too early into the round, and you guys can see that being built up now as the extra utility goes down from MNM.
All right, well, let's see exactly what MNM want to do with this space. There's a lot of creative utility going around the area that Oxygen will have to deal with. The biggest one that we always talk about, John, you know I got to talk about it. It's the Pulse. Cardiac sensor, always an amazing piece of utility when it comes down to it. You can dictate the entire defensive setup with this cardiac sensor if you get enough influential information. If you're seeing 2 to 3 bodies, you know where over half the team is all at one given moment. And obviously, that's a big boon for the defensive setup, as usually the default cams and everything else are destroyed. So having that constant information coming in from Nello is definitely going to be something that they'll be looking into. And, well, it's going to be happening already inside of the Fireplace Hall space. As for Oxygen, it's a top floor clear here now, or at least a control of red going into their pocket. MNM have some members over in the cocktail and freezer area just to try and deny some time and delay them from breaking open the flooring that could obviously lead to a couple of frags coming onto the MNM defense.
So first breaches have been made, and starting to see Oxygen clear out the extension onto the 3rd floor. Tyrant more than likely get the first fight of this one if he's not able to fall back quickly enough. But as Stokes was mentioning earlier, that pulse scanner coming in, providing a lot of intel over towards the players in MNM that still want to stick into this fight. The bulletproofs as well going to provide them good, moment-to-moment intelligence of when they'll eventually clear vertical. With a great lineup against Tyrant, though, catches him before he can even fall back down through the hatch, and that'll be a successful first kill once again going into the pocket of OXG.
Super unfortunate there, not only for Tyrant, who was on cams trying to do some damage with that bulletproof, but also for Nello, as his nitro cell actually ends up getting stuck to some concrete that was right on the lip of freezer there, and it won't deal any damage to the Oxygen members. Now for MNM, To try and hold on to these stairwells. Solid double challenge with the M590. He'll win it out automatically, just given the circumstances. Kino not able to deal as much damage as he would have wanted to. Laxing with some serious insight onto the player inside of mining, but Yaga not able to influence that gunfight in any serious way. Now for MNM, they just need to wait on this timer and see what Oxygen's next move is going to be. This is slowly slipping away from the NA squad as Marshmallows and Molotovs looking to steal Oxygen's breath here. Foxay with a stun out towards White. Does he dip over? He does not. He wants to try and hold on to this for some more time as Yaga tries to clear out some of these trained players, but MNM, they're slipping through the cracks.
Now with only 30 seconds left to go here. Disadvantage facing MNM. Starts to favor Oxygen more and more, but at the same time, Laxing, he's right there. He's got the lineup in a very nice headshot. Just has to wait for Nello to peek out a little bit more as he pops his head off and puts Oxygen into an even better position here. Now in a 4v3, but again, lack of time. Where's the push? Where's the execution coming in from Oxygen? They're going to drop themselves in through the hatch up on top, but it's going to work surprisingly as well. 2 pickups back to back and now back again as Yaga, I believe, finds the final kill of the map. And that's going to shut it down for OXG. Takes him a couple rounds to accomplish that final point, but they do indeed claim it, closing out the map 7-4 and giving them a 1-0 lead in the series.
9-2 on opening picks here for Oxygen. Truly impressive stuff, especially from what we've been seeing from them across the last couple of days. It hasn't been coming as easily, but for Oxygen, Vertical showing up in a huge way. 13 kills, the top frag inside of the server, and something that all of the NA fans at home are more than likely extremely excited about.
Yeah, Vertical's going to be able to continue to perform like that. Other teams certainly need to watch out, and MNM need to get ready because they have a lot more work cut out for them here in maps number 2 and 3. But still, a decent rebound, especially on the defensive side there in those final rounds. It seems like after the pause, MNM got a much better grasp on this situation, but still going to need to see them rebound quite nicely here as we still have a few more maps to go and a few more opportunities for MNM to save their tournament lives. That's the important thing to remember here, folks. Every single game today is an elimination game, so MNM need to rebound quickly or could find themselves one of our first teams to be knocked out here in the playoff stage.
And the only big issue is now we are going into Oxygen's map pick. It's Oregon. Good news is, though, they've played it a lot here. So MNM should have some research done as to how they want to try and handle this map, and it could be a pretty interesting one. I feel like this deserves the full 3 in between these two, but MNM, they're once again witnessing the 10 a.m. buff, or rather nerf, but it's just really not working out for them in the moment. It's a very, very unfortunate. I thought we'd get a little bit more out of them on Kafe, but just a very slow start to them on offense and not able to get things put together.
All right, so keep it tuned in right here, ladies and gentlemen. Map number 2 is going to be coming up right around the corner. Stick with us, and we'll be coming back at you with it in just a few minutes. Welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen, to the playoff stage, the Six Invitational 2022. It is a lower bracket day here for day number 2, which means we are knocking out a whole bunch of teams. 8 matches, that means 8 teams are going home. And one of them, unfortunately, is up against the wall here. With a 1-0 lead in the series, Oxygen are feeling a bit safer about themselves as they are about to knock MNM out and bring the European representation down to only 2 teams remaining. But the question is, we're heading to Oregon here, a map that so many of our teams in this tournament feel comfortable on. Will it be a redemption point for MNM, or will it become their graveyard?
Well, it wasn't such a hotly contested Kafe, even though it was a 7-4 scoreline. You know, fire needs oxygen to burn, John. And for MNM, they did not have a lot of it as they were snuffed out constantly, especially on their offensive side where we saw Oxygen just take the reins and run with it. But after they were able to switch things up, finally started to get some of their footing back, and well, it was just too little too late at that point as Oxygen were able to rip Kafe out of their cold dead hands and push us on over to Oregon, which is Oxygen's map choice.
Big talking point from the phase match yesterday was Oxygen's ability to pick up entry kills, but not really able to translate them. And as we saw, they fixed that issue, at least versus MNM here for their first game of the day. As once again, we see good stats in that department, and now good follow-through, specifically on their attacking side, of being able to not only get into the site, but fully take it, and in some cases get that diffuser down on the ground too. Usually not necessary for them, though, as MNM's players being forced out usually means that most of these rounds are ending on a DM basis here. So we'll see if they can repeat that same success on another map when this played out even more so. And more importantly, MNM finding some rebounds there from their defensive half towards the end of it. Just a little too late, but hopefully taking what they learned from map number 1 is going to boost their own capability to fight out against Oxygen here and maybe, just maybe, ignite a possibility for a map 3 and a comeback to keep them in this tournament. Let's see if that's going to be true as we head into Oregon for our second map here and decide if MNM still have some fight left in them.
Grab your marshmallows for the campfire, folks. It starts now in between these 2 teams. And what are we removing from play before we hop into Oregon? Well, initially it's going to be Habana, the Hatch Queen herself, will not be here this time around. She was on Kafe, but for Oregon, she's even more important to the overall story of what the offense can produce. Thatcher, the same story as well. Those EMPs quite annoying to deal with, so those will be wiped off the board. But what does Oxygen want to affect the defense with, as they'll be starting on the offensive side?
Defensive bans now coming out, though, as Oxygen will get the first choice here. Everything making sense so far for our attackers and falling in line with the meta, and it's probably going to be the same thing here for our defender bans. Mira is the choice from Oxygen. How does MNM want to try and swing things, though, as they'll have a pretty straightforward choice, too, as that's going to be coming up in just a second here, and... Womai, could have seen a Valkyrie ban there, so a little bit off, but again, we already saw the Womai ban picked up in the previous map as well, so that is just the choice for MNM.
Also, just as a reminder, Oxygen really do like their IQ pick. This is something that's ran very often by Vertical. He loves that 5.52 commando, so we're more than likely going to see that worked in from Oxygen eventually here, especially if we start to see a lot of Valkyrie play where it's starting to influence the rounds here on the defensive end. Well, for now, we're headed down to the hallmark site of this entire map. It is Laundry Supply Room for MNM's very first defense.
Showing an Ella, but immediately he's going for the 6th pick. Usus will move over towards a Valkyrie. And at the same time, Nock will come in here for OXG. An interesting switch on it, though, is they're going to delete quite a bit of the utility they would have brought to the table here on the Capitale, and instead bring that aggressive extra capability on the Nock, specifically for a basement attack. This could have some interesting lead-ups, so we will follow that very closely as we get into our first round.
Well, Capitale obviously has a direct counter in the likes of Womai, but...
He's banned.
He's banned, exactly. And that's exactly why John is questioning this. And honestly, I don't have any fault with that either. The biggest thing is that they've stacked the nades. And that's honestly a really, really good thing in this situation, because without Womai, you still don't have as much utility as you possibly would initially. And they don't have a Rooney in either. So the only person preventing any of these nades from flying into sight is Jaeger with his ADSs, and nowadays they only catch a singular thing. So if we see proper clearing utilized by Oxygen, this could be some serious frag power coming in from the NA team.
Yeah, at most, if they're going to all be dumped over the same period of time, you're looking at 3 out of 8 of those being deleted. Aside from that, there's going to be 5 more that can cleanly work their way in. Obviously, if there's some delay in those, you could have the ADSs recharge and a few more get gobbled back up, but I'm certain that OXG will want to try and take those ADSs out before they're given an opportunity to collect a second second nade. One player has brought a kit of flashes too, so good possibility that none of them end up getting deleted, and that there's going to be a whole bombardment for MNM to deal with at some later point in the round here. Oxygen have to deal with these little peeps coming up the stairwells though first before they can even think about descending into the basement. Nothing creeping itself over towards the freezer stairs, but as we can see, Neo, mainly peeking up for intel, is going to hold positioning over towards the back stairs and try to pay attention and hopefully get lucky and grab a member of Oxygen.
Oxygen already descending the freezer stairwell. They'll probably hold on to this for a time. A pretty cheeky Valkyrie camera and behind the AC unit. The top of the freezer hallway, so they'll have some extra insight going into that space for later on. As for Oxygen, they just want to make sure that they get this hatch play into play, and that's exactly what we'll see the Mav Torch doing in the current moment. For Foxe, Kino will begin blowing open some hatches himself as well as we begin to deconstruct this downstairs site. Laundry already being picked up. Valkyrie camera discovered here as well. Laxi not too worried about these Valkyrie picks in and of himself because he is knocked, so he'll be able to slip past that info game here and more than likely pick up some MNM members if they're not aware.
Kino hoping for a successful swing here that someone would be on the other side, but hasn't happened just yet here. Everyone from MNM staying nice, cool, calm, and collected, but this is going to be a very early push from Oxygen. Still a minute and 15 seconds left to go, and you can see they're already baiting out some of the toxic babes. It's Nello, though, to strike first against Yogg, with only a little bit of damage being traded both onto him and Tyrant, who took another fight, more than likely against the push from Kino over towards the inside of the closet. Nice nades, though, again, bring Nello even lower, but Solotov on top of Nello are just shredding this attack. Oxygen are dead on the ground. The nades do virtually nothing to the setup from MNM, and Laxing is suddenly left as the only player standing.
Unfortunate for Oxygen in the moment as the overall strategy seemed pretty solid, but obviously as MNM just collect body after body, it gets even more difficult. This will get tagged up here from Laxing inside a freezer, but this is not going to get him too much. He'll eventually be taken down by Tyrant in the first round. We'll go over to Marshmallows and Molotovs.
That is going to be a dominant first round for MNM as well. Absolutely nothing working out for Oxygen as soon as they made the descent into the basement. A fairly straightforward push from Oxygen, all things considered at the end of the day, and able to do it really early on in the round. No reason why they had to force the issue out there, but still so many players peeked into the open. MNM said, all right, you want to fight? Let's do it. And managed to take so many successful duels in their favor. At any point there, Oxygen could have backed that up and tried to reinsert themselves at a later point, but decided not to and gave away far too many players there, leaving it as a just pretty straightforward hold at the end of the day for MNM once they dodge the nades.
Yeah, absolutely. For Oxygen, they were trying to, ramp up the pacing in that situation just because Laxing was on the back end for tower so that he could sneak downstairs and possibly just be the dagger instead of the veil that they were able to try and set up. But Oxygen just not able to muster any frags that meant anything at all. Laxing's the only one with a kill, and the only reason that he got that is because he got traded out at the end. So it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, as that's going to be an exit frag that doesn't work into anything serious for OXG. For MNM now, it's upstairs towards the dorm's defense as Oxygen continue to look for their very first round here on their offensive side. MNM with some pretty solid ideas on how to hold this top floor. We'll have the laser gates coming in with a punch holes being put inside of the trophy space just for an extended view into Master, which is a hot spot for a lot of players to come through, as that main wall is usually a priority to get in towards the game space.
From that, MNM are primed and ready to go, and Oxygen, well, we're going to have to slow things down a little bit this time for more reasons than one. The relative lack of success in the first round is one reason, but at the same time, this site lends a lot more capability for MNM to play aggressively to try and take early duels themselves, and they'll certainly have the confidence to do so after the last round's results here. So OXG certainly going to want to take a step back and reanalyze things, check twice, cut once before they try to work their way in here. You can already see Tyrant trying to go for one of those swings I was talking about previously, but is not going to find anything outside of the lower tower door.
Well, obviously, he's going to hold down the stairs here for Usus. He's looking to see if he can possibly slow down Oxygen's take inside of the area. We all know how prominent the frag grenades have been at this LAN, as they've been able to pick up quite a few frags, and, well, in the current moment, not able to find much. They'll be able to eliminate some utility at the top of white, but they won't be able to get in underneath the site as easily, simply because of the placement of these MNM bodies. We'll continue to hold on to this as Yaga propels himself up white stairs here. Nobody home in the current moment, but obviously they'll have some utility in the space to slow him down just a bit. But is there a Banshee over here? That's the big question right now. They do have the cross angle here all the way over from Trophy. It'll tag up Yaga, but he has the ability to heal himself back up. Speaking of healing, Usus will more than likely want some of that, but unfortunately nothing in order to achieve that in the current moment. Tyron will continue to hold on to Freezer Stairs and make sure that he is safe down low for his rotation as they continue to delay Oxygen's time.
There's no way that
But
works.
Solotov, he gives it up. Yaga continuing to pepper the door, finally finds the head of Solotov, and that will be our opening frag.
Yaga wins the lottery with the tap pool going into his favor there as he just consistently goes for it time after time again, and unfortunately for the members of MNM, Solotov ends up obliging, walking right into that spray setup there. A nice nade follows it up also and gives a second kill, now a third too, over to the members of Oxygen as they're changing up their fate very quickly, but Usus with the double nitro cell kill reignites MNM back into it, only for a split second though, as OXG are still in control of the pacing and still in control of their own first round here as they tie us up at 1-1.
Well, fortunately, Oxygen have a Yaga as he finds 3 kills inside of that one. Oxygen trying to set the plant down inside of dorms, but that goes so awry with the nitro cell being stuck to the wall directly above the 2 Oxygen members. A fantastic frag grenade here from Vert as well, and that's why the placement of Usus down low was very, very helpful for MNM in the moment. But once he gets pressured out, the frag grenades can then, assist in clearing out that top space and making MNM's life a heck of a lot more difficult. They don't really want to go down to any of the mid-floor sites. I feel like the run back will be able to assist them. Let's see what they want to change up inside of their strategy, as they've definitely switched out some ops here. Usus, first of all, will not be on the mute anymore. That'll go on over to Nello. He's on the Valkyrie. Solotov still sticking to the Melusi, but the biggest thing is here, we won't have the Aruni gates any longer.
Already gates, we are going to see those Goyo shields still remain present and hopefully be able to slow down the assault from Oxygen. Oxygen, however, once they got the ball rolling, they never hit the brakes. We're able to wipe out MNM within a period of about 30 or 40 seconds, I would say, from the first kill to the last there. So that's the problem for MNM right now, is trying to get control over this chain of frags that Oxygen seem to be able to find from time to time. They're slow down their pacing, make Oxygen second guess themselves. That's how they were making mistakes versus FaZe yesterday, being slowed up too much, not taking enough action inside of the execute, and of course FaZe causing chaos inside of those to be able to slow them down even further to eventually run the time bank down to an unwinnable point. FaZe even said this inside of an interview with CGG2 that that's how they were looking to win, and it worked out pretty much perfectly yesterday. But so far, MNM struggling to contain the storm as OXG work their way in on that first round.
Oh, Tyrant. Oh, crucial shots being missed, and Yaga once again able to heal himself back up. It's a make or break up. If Yaga dies there, then obviously the rest of his team more than likely not too happy about that swing, but they'll definitely be happy as they'll take down the initial blood yet again here for the second time in a row, and the second time for Yaga. Solotov this time will be dedicated down low, just like we saw from Usus the last time around. Vertical's got some solid info inside of this department here, as Solotov will continue to try and hold on to the space. Oxygen will slow things up just a little bit here, as they've got so much time at their disposal. Still have 2 minutes remaining here to drone out the map and see exactly how they want to handle this downstairs presence.
Just want a 5v4. Oxygen in control once again, but have been pushed into a slow point. However, momentarily that's going to be. Solotov able to isolate out one of the Twitch drones as it passes by, but I'm sure Relaxing won't be losing too much sleep over the loss of that one, considering the progress they've already made inside of this round here. Foxy lines up the nade. Man, this is looking like a straight-up repeat of the last round right now, as the second kill is going to come in from a nade. Now that does try to go down the stairs and nearly manages to catch another member of MNM, but instead it's going to fall to Vertical to try to find it, as he's instead going to be the one to knock out Solotov. We sit in a 5v2. Only the anchors are left alive here, and they'll be able to at least respond here. Neo a bit deeper in over towards Arsenal. Picks up not just 1, but 2 holds here against Oxygen. That's what's going to cause that second guessing I was talking about before, the slowdowns from OXG, as now they'll have to take a back seat for a second, reanalyze the situation, as it's not as clean of a victory as it was looking to be a few seconds prior.
For Oxygen, you have to do this all at once. You can't just simply walk into the site nilly-willy, and that's exactly what's going to happen to you. Yaga gets picked to pieces. Foxy finally with the frag back, as this is looking a lot easier here now, with Usus the only one being alive. Kino with the cross will be able to take him down as that bullet tings off the windowsill that was intended for his noggin. And, well, luckily enough for Oxygen, that'll be their second round on offense coming through already.
Yeah, actually learning their own lessons from their game yesterday as well. And I think the main takeaway for them is just do things earlier. Give them additional time to make up for their mistakes. We still saw it become an issue on at least one round back on the play in Kafe, but it seems like they've got a great grasp of here on our second map for Oregon, as they're taking swift control of 2 consecutive upstairs holds in a row. That is the caveat to it, is it's just basically a repeat of the same site hold from MNM with a few slight operator changes. Now they're going to return to the basement where they absolutely thrashed the execute attempt from Oxygen back on the first round here. So we could be looking at a very quick tie game at 2-2 if there's not corrections that come in from OXG. OXG are going to change up the attacking strategy a little bit too, as they're now going to bring the Ying into the fold, played by Vertical.
It's the fun one, the one that we all love to see when it comes to execute time. Candelas and smokes for Vertical inside of this one. It could have some heavy influence around this pillar space. More than likely be looking to take over the B site and get their plant down inside of that area. But as we know, between these two teams, plants really aren't that often, as the only plants that we were seeing over on Kafe came from the MNM side. And, well, it ended up getting them 2 victories. But past that, not a single plant inside of our other rounds. Here, we've only had frag fests, as every single round has ended to one of these teams running out of bodies. This time around, we'll have to see exactly what will go down, as Usus will be upstairs in red, looking to see if there's any drone presence inside of this area and just add some more black eye cams to the puzzle.
So at a 2-1 scoreline, OXG are in control. For how long is going to be the major question now. As MNM look to change up their own fate yet again, and they won't thankfully have to do anything too active to accomplish it here. It was mainly off of the virtues of their site hold that MNM were able to win out that previous round, and a bit of an overcommitment from Oxygen in terms of grenade utility that just didn't end up meeting itself with as much success as they would have thought. You can see that's already been switched out too. It's now 2 packets of smokes and 2 grenades, compared to the 4 all-in attempt, basically, on the nades we were seeing previously. Still, of course, 1 packet of flashes being brought for our attackers also to try to drain out some of the mitigation, as, of course, we'll still have those ADSs, which could become problematic as they try to work their nades in.
Well, Oxygen clearing out the full map as intended. And some risky plays coming through from FaZe yesterday, where specifically we saw a smoke from Cameraman all the way upstairs in dorms on this exact site. Yes, I am not wrong in what I am saying, I promise you. As he was actually able to secure, I believe, what, 3 frags, John, inside of that round? Truly disgusting stuff, but it was mostly just a big error in the offensive side, as they didn't clear out the top floor. They didn't think anything would be going on, and obviously they were sorely mistaken. So this time around, they want to make sure that they know exactly what is happening inside of this space before they strike, and obviously nobody home upstairs in Oregon, everybody downstairs for the time being.
So, time about halfway gone, and Oxygen still looking to open things up for themselves. Fox, I thought he was going to go for a hot drop. It's like a self-hot drop for a second there. Obviously not going to end up happening, as he shifts himself off of that platform to finish up the opening here. And the rest of the team kind of gets themselves prepared. A little bit slower this time on the follow-up, the lead up into the basement, but the formula looks very similar. It's going to be the laundry pinch with a little bit of assistance coming in from Freezer. We can see Yogg already in position to put the pressure in from here. This is what didn't work on the last attempt, though. This nade coming in, nearly catching Nello, but it's not cooked. It's panic thrown instead here. That's going to give Nello the time he needs to get away from that and, for the most part, dodge all the damage.
Well, not going to have the sneaky play on the back end this time around, at least when it comes from Nook. Could be seeing some other things coming through here, as we're going to have some Candelas in. The flashes work out. Vertical with 1, but he's going to have to get a whole heck of a lot more. The Candela being cooked, but he's peeking with utility in his hand. He gets bodied by Solitov, laxing on the reverse end, just like we assumed, but obviously this time not as Nook. So fantastic stuff from him. It's down to the 2 versus 2, but they have minimal time, and they know that both of these ops are on different ends of the puzzle. Yaga takes down 1, but is Jesus able to get away with much here? He'll get 1, but knows where the other one is. A Goomine in Yogg's foot. He steps up.
Oh, but he gets the
what
headshot.
a headshot. Oxygen able to claim the round, as they'll get 3 in a row.
OXG, and specifically Yaga, bringing a massive performance to the table there to bully his way into the site. The consistency in gun duels here from Yaga has been seen throughout the course of this team's run so far at this tournament, and once again, he's saving the day in the late round as he picks up that one for his squad. And like you said, carries these 3 rounds consecutively now into the pockets of Oxygen. As again, MNM going to double down on this one. They feel it was close enough to warrant a retry. I would generally agree with it. So we're going to have a second play in basement coming up for round number 5.
It's the most defensively sound site inside of the entire map. When it's open, you play basement. That's just how it is. This is how it goes, unless you have something in the cards, I guess, for the offensive side that you think will really, really throw them off. So for MNM, yes, indeed, heading back downstairs, and they're also going to add some Electro Claws to the puzzle, so we'll see if that can do much. But as of right now, for MNM, this is the only thing that's able to really help them in the moment. Everyone else really not showing up in the frag department, minus Nello, who's currently 3-3. For Oxygen, though, it's the Yog Dog show, as he's 7-2 at the moment through 4 rounds. It's really, really impressive for the time being. We'll see if he can continue his reign of terror over the Marshmallows coming here into round 5.
So Oxygen seemingly in control of every facet of this attacking side, but MNM look to respond any way that they can here. They'll change up their own fate as well, most notably with Tyrant bringing in the Ella to play out. Those Geschmack mines hopefully catching some of the members of Oxygen if they try to go for the bursted execute that we had seen on the previous 2 attempts. Obviously a bit of a mixed results in that for Oxygen, but this time seems like they had much better grasp over specifically the in-sight positions of the members of MNM. So able to eliminate them a lot more proficiently this time. Not relying too heavily on those nades as we saw back in round number 1, and then just kind of brute forcing their way forward directly into the crosshairs of quite a few members of MNM, actually taking a bit of a slow approach to it on that last round, and able to more surgically knock out some of the defenders.
Well, if you've seen it once, you've seen it 1,000 times. It's going to be the clear from the west to the east here on Oregon, as most teams really enjoy. From the shower basis, a drone down, and Yaga with a follow-up as well. Good thing for Tyrant, though, is that he's aware that more than likely somebody's going to be behind that drone, and he's extremely right in the circumstances. But now, all of MNM forced back towards site, and not only that, but still so much time for Oxygen to work this space. Possibility of a big pick here if somebody's willing to challenge Yaga, but he has been so strong inside of these opening engagements, you might not necessarily want to go searching for that. Well, at least for Oxygen now, they'll be able to hold on to Freezer and continue to work on these hatches. Yaga with a frag grenade out. He knows that there's a Grishmont mine under the table as well, so he won't pressure too far forward unless he wants to risk himself fully. Obviously, the adrenal surges will also be able to assist with him getting concussed later on, so if they do get forceful, he can pop that and immediately surge forward in through Freezer, but still a long road ahead of them when it comes to this hard breach game.
Regardless, though, halfway through the round and only just now starting to see OXG get into more secure positions to make their descent into the basement here. So once again, we will see them try and throw them at it with minimal time remaining here and relying quite heavily on just pure frags to get them into the site. Not frag grenades either, frags in terms of kills. Minute remaining.
Shout out to our fantastic observer there for getting rid of our mute bug, so now we can hear everything once again, and you guys can at home too. So Yaga going to continue to hold on to this side of Freezer, and John, this is getting to very low time here.
This is that stagnation that we were talking about in the pregame as well that I'm worried about with Oxygen. Their kind of hesitation to move in, their want to wait for someone on MNM to make a swing, to make a peek, and then use that as the entry point. That's not going to work out because obviously the immediate response from MNM is just sit back, don't peek, wait it out here. And now Nello's going to strike first instead, but he does get exchanged, however, so XG now in the fight, pushing themselves forward, but only on even terms, and it's going to fall all into the pockets of MNM here. Yeah, another kill found from Vertical, but he's been found immediately afterwards as well. And MNM pick up a response to put us at a 3-2 scoreline as they find their second finally here.
What does Nello have in his water? That's what I've got to know. 3 opening engagements coming from this man on the defensive side. Obviously not able to muster 3 rounds off of that, but still, he's been able to slow down Oxygen in a certain sense and make it a lot more difficult for them to actually work their way in here. But they all came from the basement site here from Nello. We'll have to see if they can possibly get it done as they head towards meeting and kitchen.
So it's going to go back into a meeting room hold for MNM's final play. They still excuse me, kind of tongue-tied there. It's a little dry in here. But MNM did have the second floor available for play upstairs. We're going to choose to ignore that one. They do it for it twice in a row earlier on in this half, and it didn't work out either time. So probably a good choice to not go back to that one, as OXG basically ran the same exact strategy to clear it twice, and it also worked out nearly the same way for them in both of those attempts also. So meeting room will be the go-to point here for MNM to try and control their final round. This will lead to quite a bit of an extension upstairs. Still going to see some reliance on the kids' dorm specifically to waste time away from Oxygen. Same can be said for Attic. As we have already seen for a few of our teams, they can brute force past that one with stage door access and still be able to work their way into the site without necessarily having to clear out either of those setups. Just need Overwatch to prevent the Attic play from coming back to bite them.
Yes, indeed, my friend, but Oxygen are going to require quite a bit when it comes to this overall. Some softballs upstairs for Attic that could come back to bite MNM depending on how this top floor does break down, but look at this. Nello, he's going to be playing inside of Big Tower. This is something that you don't necessarily see every single day. Also have some angles down low opened up for E-Box. Usually you try to play prevent through this space and just give them up tower. Try and toss a Nitro Cell up through the E-Box space, but obviously this has been played out. This has been done time and time again, so Oxygen will have to try and look for something else here to try and push pressure onto the MNM bodies. As for MNM though, are they aware that this is more than likely going to be a kitchen attack? Vertical droning things out inside of kitchen. He knows that the only member in this space as of right now is Neo, but MNM do have some influence on this top floor that could definitely assist them in slowing this down, especially after Neo takes down Foxe.
Another opener going into the pockets of MNM as they continue to fend off these early plays, but at the same time, can't necessarily keep those same players up and rolling. Neo tries to go for a second swing and pays the price for it as we go into an even 4v4. Now Oxygen sits right at the precipice here of a kitchen push as well, not even needing to go for the stage door access. Yaga with the next find as Tyrant tries to challenge him, and Yaga is going to have another duel in a moment. Okay, never mind, backs away from it. Nello, a little surprised to not find him outside there anymore as he swings it with his own personal shotgun. Won't rely much from it and chucks away a Toxic Babe here to fend off the pressure from the main kitchen wall.
The big thing is now, though, is they've given up some information and uses... Oh my goodness! He just makes it away from that frag grenade, but he's going to drop right into the open arms of Oxygen. He slips through the cracks, but now before Vertical can find him, it's down to 2 MNM bodies. Almost one as Solotov peaks, but he's not able to land his shots either. He takes some serious heat as well, so he'll be down to about 50 HP here. Only with a minute remaining for Oxygen. Kino now he's trying to take some damage himself, but oh my goodness, the timing on that. Solotov, he's the only remaining member. He's got to try and stop this. Vertical's got the kill, and Oxygen have 4 rounds on the offensive side of Oregon. This is looking bleak.
When it works here as OXG consistently try to trade their way into a win, always hunting for that first kill opportunity, and while it tripped them up in a few rounds, they're wasting too much time to look for it or a little bit over-reliant on their utility in some cases. For the most part, it's a sound strategy, and they're able to bully their way into the site time after time after time again and snowball their way to a victory.
The constant pressure coming out from MNM, honestly coming back to bite them as well, is it was a little bit disengaged and discombobulated from each other, to be honest with you. As inside of that half, guys, we had 4 opening bloods from MNM in total. They just really weren't able to play off of each other in a certain sense, and Oxygen abusing that as they constantly got frag after frag after frag, especially for Yaga's sake, as he ends that half at a 9-3 split. Vertical coming up strong as well there on the tail end, as he's got 7 frags inside of his killed department, so fantastic stuff for OXG as they come into this defensive side. They have to be feeling themselves at the moment.
So just 20 seconds to go here. Oxygen are going to give us a fairly typical... Actually, I'm going to take that back. There's a few wrinkles in the setup here for Oxygen, as we have both Yaga playing into the Ela here, and that's not going to be too much of a far cry from what we generally tend to see here. I obviously expect a bit more static utility to be placed in the site, but the real kicker is, of course, going to be Foxe on the Clash. Foxe, personally, as you can see from his scoreboard, has been struggling a little bit inside of this game, so he'll sacrifice his KD for this round in an attempt to slow things down, mainly in that long haul area, but also towards pillar, blocking off areas like construction and the back stairs stairs push, he can be quite useful for delaying time.
You know, in North America, we just get the IGL nerf. That's what we get. Anyone that IGLs in North America automatically has to do bad inside of the game. It's just something that we do. I don't know why it happens, but it's going to happen here yet again for Fox. And honestly, he's been having a pretty fantastic land. This is definitely an outlier inside of his games. He had a pretty rough one against FaZe, but before that, he was actually one of the top players at SI overall. So pretty interesting stuff here, but obviously he doesn't need to get all of the kills. That's Yaga and Bert's job in the moment, as they're both on extended holds. At least they were initially here. Have to see exactly where Yaga ended up dipping off to. We did see him on that top floor. He made it all the way over to White Stairs and went down Freezer, so a little bit more of a safe play in the current situation. And honestly, probably a smart one at that, as he did get droned out earlier on. So not only is that going to force MNM to then drone out the top floor again, but also it's going to force them to waste some time doing that. So we're going to have the secondary hard breach come through for Neo, so they won't have to bring in anything else like a Thatcher or rather a Thermite in order to achieve this.
Well, half the round gone and relatively quiet time so far here, as you would sometimes tend to expect on a basement hold. Oxygen not wanting to play out too aggressively from their own positions, and MNM not wanting to risk anything. Well, to be honest, it's a little bit hard for them to try and throw anything out here without the hatch access being opened up.
Oh,
towards
no.
that now, Kino is going to take a huge slump of damage, but it's returned as well onto Solitov. The kills, though, evenly exchanged, and with Solitov on the ground, oh, that's a great nade rolling right in from Tyrant by construction. That's going to knock out Vert. 2 players down, and keep in mind, Foxe is not one of the ones to be eliminated here, so we may yet need to try and frag out here a bit if that extra firepower is going to be needed. But with a minute remaining, he's going to start venturing up through those back stairs again to investigate, see if he can maybe open up an opportunity to get in the way of the rest of this execute, specifically towards the E-hatch drop.
This sort of things get so very difficult without Omai being in play and only having those ADSs, is that you don't have as much preventable utility as you would once want. And obviously, MNM throwing that wrench into the cogs, as now only 35 seconds remain, as Oxygen will lock up the elbow space and make this more difficult to try and play into for Marshmallows and Molotovs. You have to try and pressure now. Fox will be manning the back stairwell here. They've seen Tyrant frag grenade out. Can he get it in behind the shield? Not going to deal any serious damage to Fox, as Neo will push himself down low. Laxing claims 1, but it's Tyrant to claim 2. It's all down to Laxing. He's able to hit some very serious shots, but a long road ahead of him now. He's being pressured by Tyrant here, and Tyrant will claim the frag. MNM able to get their very first offensive round.
Great crunch from MNM, specifically on the pillar play, that they knew that dealing with Foxe was going to be a bit problematic, so they flood the entire setup surrounding him there. Not only does he fall relatively quickly, but his support is not able to get anything off either, as MNM find themselves with a successful first round and now are truly back in the ball game here with a 3-4 scoreline, only 1 behind the overall total from Oxygen. And Oxygen, once again, doubling down, heading back into another basement hold, not favoring the play upstairs. They think switching out the clash will make this a little bit easier to hold due to the early losses they sustained, and obviously the struggles Foxe would have had trying to contribute inside of the gunfight with a shield drawn.
We're going to have the Goyo come in through Foxe. Personally, I would have loved to see the Warden pick here, just because MNM are really leaning in to this Ying play right now. They're going to do so yet again here. It's a little bit predictable from MNM, but for Oxygen, they feel like the Goyo shield will give them some more longevity inside of the round. They'll have 4 shields coming into this post. Yog and Kino both having shields as well, so that's going to be an absurd amount of deployable shield utility that MNM have to try and work themselves through. And fortunately for Oxygen, they will have ADSs as well in the likes of Vertical, so they will prevent a couple of these frag grenades from coming in onto them past that. So for MNM now, they're awaiting the gates to be opened here as Yaga once again crosses this top floor, but then will more than likely double back towards Freezer.
Well, we've got MNM out on the board. Let's see how their opening play will go. As, again, they will have easy access to the large majority of the map. Not going to see anything too crazy swung out from Oxygen. We're going to see a few players at least try to play from the staircase positions, though, specifically over towards Freezer in the security area. Then you can see 1 or 2 back by Laundry and backstairs also. However, won't be leaving those players out on an island for too long. And you can see Yaga's probably going to be the most prominent one to pay attention to here, as he could find himself getting pinched out relatively quickly. However, as I already mentioned, he's got an easy fallback point. Yep, just go right across the hallway there, get himself into safer harbors over by the Freezer staircase.
Tyrant will begin clearing things out here with the Gemini clone. They'll find Yaga inside a freezer stairwell, just like we were talking about previously. Continue to hold on to this. Those Grishmont mines will obviously assist him in any gunfight that comes into this space. MNM already droning out mostly everything on this mid and top floor, so they'll begin breaking up these hatches and start seeing as to how they can affect this site. Again, plenty of utility when it comes to defensive standpoints here for Oxygen and these deployable shields, so they're going to be making a pretty grand stand eventually at some point. Foxay going to end up adding another piece here, and that's going to end up leading to somebody jumping over that shield or having to blow that up with a frag grenade. We'll just have to see, because the top angle, you won't be able to get the actual gas tank on the back end of that.
Soltoff sneaking the Twitch drones in now. Going to find out as much as he can about the interior site setup, and is going to find that the laundry area, at least, is relatively clean, save for a few mute jammers or one that was sitting in his way. No ADSs to snipe out this time around. That means MNM are probably going to have a bit of a confidence boost here to try and play out from that direction. We can already see it. The nade dump's going back in. They do want to at least chuck in one of these smokes to see if it maybe gets eaten up, but Laxing is going to eat up instead as he swings out to find the opening kill versus Solotov. There we can see where the huge nest of them has been deployed, and MNM did catch it. A nade just barely leaping within line of sight of those ADSs, and it takes all three of them out without even triggering any of them.
That's actually insane what just happened there to Oxygen. Very unfortunate given the circumstances of what this push is starting to build up to, but Oxygen will still be able to try and play into the utility, specifically of Kino here. They have some Nitro Cells to be able to try and stop plant. That's why Foxay's prone in this current situation. Yes, Nitro Cell already ripped and ready to go, as he doesn't want his opponent to hear that tape rip and be aware that it's headed towards their direction. Nitro Cell out, but it's way too early here. He just try and does it off of the Candelas, but it's going to be used to strike onto Kino instead. Nello now starting to take some heat as Tyrant propels himself forward. Yaga with one, but he's traded out immediately as the damage starts coming in onto these freezer players. Vertical to double back over in towards Pillar, and he's going to have the cutoff here. Not able to land his shots initially. Now they've crossed through. Too many kills, and oh no! Vertical, he had to win out that engagement. Not ready for the freezer player either to swing in, and well, that's going to be all she wrote. Vertical had to win that engagement inside of the freezer hallway, but he's not able to get it done.
Vertical holding hope that there would have been a late play in through either the back stairs or construction, maybe to surprise entry from these players, but it doesn't happen, and his lack of support, as Stokes had mentioned, is hugely noticeable, as it allows the free swing from Freezer, floods into the site, and deteriorates the setup from Laxing and anyone else that was still holding themselves in the interior of the actual bomb chassis area. Big blunder from Oxygen, as that was a very workable position for them, especially with the time running out, but they failed to convert it. And now MNM tied the game up at 4-4, and we see an immediate tactical pause called in from OXG.
Super unfortunate from Oxygen in the current moment is they're kind of just fighting ghosts in a certain sense there as well, John, with the misused utility, especially coming out from Foxay. That early Nitro Cell, they're trying to get ahead of MNM out towards Laundry, but it's just ill-advised. It just ends up blowing up their own barbed wire instead, as they're simply just waiting. They have so many Candelas to be able to enact upon the space, so they just burn one and see exactly what's going to happen. Do you guys want to try and use any utility against us? All right, cool. We'll just wait it out and see what happens here. And with the way MNM ended up clearing out the map, they had so much time in order to do that as well, so they wait till the dying moments in order to actually will themselves onto the site, and that's when we see that whole situation go down with Vertical.
So, with us moving into round number 9 here, pause will expire, and Oxygen will be out of time to correct their mistakes. So they'll move away from the basement. 2 times is enough of a try here, because that would potentially bleed out half of the entire half if they went for it a 3rd time. So it's going to be the same strategy as we saw from MNM. Give it 2 tries and move on as they head up towards the 2nd floor hold instead here. Now, having tied things up at 4-4, they need to try and find some way to leverage victories here, as if not, MNM are going to be speeding towards map number 3 here and a potential elimination against Oxygen as well.
Well, Oxygen headed towards the top floor, just as you said, and some frost mats will be in for Foxay to try and slow down these MNM members. Fortunately for them, they do have Tyrant, that Gemini clone, so they'll more than likely be able to discover a couple of different locations here. The scariest frost mat out of all of this isn't the window, isn't the other double window, it's the one over here inside of Attic. This is the one that always catches people off guard. You don't really look down whenever you run through this space. You're really worried about somebody being on the boost inside of the B space, so you're always looking over towards kids' dorms to see if somebody's holding your cross, and all of a sudden your ankles are gone, John, and it's really hard to walk. So that's more than likely what we'll see going on, unless a very well-placed frag grenade is able to claim a lot of info. And oh, speaking of info, Nello with some very serious info coming in onto Yaga, but fortunately for Yaga, some missed shots as they will tag him in the shoulder, and he'll be able to skimper off towards the basement.
Yaga surviving, obviously at limited HP here, so he'll have to be a bit careful about any peaks later on in the round, but it's important that he keeps himself alive, avoiding that issue as we get later on into the round. Laxing, meanwhile, an interesting pick from him as he's going to bring the Warden into the fold here, hopefully allowing for him to sustain inside of the chaos. And on top of that, too, with smokes in play for MNM, be able to spot through that and maybe grab a few players, as they'll haphazardly believe they'll have free reign over the site with those down and some of those POVs that OXG would use to fend off this action being blocked out here.
Oh man, so much intel constantly coming back onto Yaga as he's continually trying to find some avenue to enact himself upon this offensive side, but it just isn't happening. Fortunately enough for Foxy, that's not going to be the real Gemini. Some shots go wide, and he'll be able to clean that up eventually. Nello, still some solid info in here. Frag grenade out, but it's not going to catch Yogg. He's wasted so much utility inside of this space simply off of timing. He has no idea that drone's there. He's just constantly backing off at the perfect moment and actually wasting out some utility from the offense here. Unfortunately enough for them. Another frag grenade to go out, but this time it's up towards the top end of white to see if anybody is playing inside of that space, and clearly not. Tyrant going to catch Fox as he tries to go for a rotation here, and that's going to be our opening blood. But the good news is that Yaga has wasted so much dang time in this positioning. Nobody on cams for the time being. Azusis will pick up Yaga. They knew that he constantly was doubling back onto that location, as they'll be able to find their second frag.
Yeah, the loss of insight players is certainly going to cause issues for Oxygen as we get into the dying minute of the round. However, they will not be able to maintain solid overwatch over all the entry points here. And as we have already seen on the basement assault, MNM have no problem splitting up the play and working in from multiple angles here. So with Oxygen not necessarily having great full coverage on everything anymore, that could leave a hole open. That could be an opportunity to break down the setup, just like we saw in the previous basement attack with a very unfortunate turn of events. A vertical not able to catch the cross from Freezer. Kino, the next to take some heat here as nades are going to be chucked in against him and already losing about half of his HP. Another one primed, ready to go, but looks like it actually got canceled here. A Tyrant stepping up to the plate, back over at the top of White Stairs, but he has to wait out the burn on these toxic babes. More players from MNM slowly going to start establishing positions to get themselves into the site, but it's going to be Kino to respond first, but not just one, but two downs. The second one is found from Vertical to eliminate Neo. 15 seconds left here. Plant attempt is going to be made by Nello as he's able to sneak his way in through walk-in towards games. Where is the response to that? Laxing taking out the White Stairs position, but the plant goes down successfully. However, that player will be overwhelmed very quickly. Nello can survive for one more trade, but the retake is swift, and the round pickup finally going to be made by Oxygen as they go up 5-4 just when they were about to lose the lead.
An extremely intense round there from Oxygen, but a fantastic tack timeout comes through, and they finally find their mark on the defensive end. And it's not downstairs, it's inside of dorms. Very well done from them, especially from the early picks that MNM had. But again, like we talked about, so much time wasting happening specifically for Yaga, even though he did end up dying because of that info that was constantly coming from the Freezer stair cam that we saw. But it was just enough to get it past MNM inside of this situation. Even past that, a fantastic push onto the top of White Stairs for the SAS op that ended up cleaning up a very serious angle that they had to get rid of.
So basement is the fallback now for Oxygen. They do not have confidence either of their first floor holds at this point to make an attempt towards that. So a third try now on the basement play. And so we're also going to keep the Warden in for Laxing yet again here too. And this time it's certainly going to be very useful as the Ying makes another reappearance for MNM. So Laxing will obviously have the direct counter to that and be able to contend against the E-Hatch drop and the overall flood from MNM once they are ready to go towards it.
And this is exactly what I wanted to see. Not only can Warden see through smokes and see through stuns, but he's also got the 1.5 on the MPX. So some of these longer distance gunfights that Laxing has been dedicating himself towards will be made just a little bit easier, especially with swings coming in from like the main stock space inside of the closet going out towards laundry, or if he wants to try and contest Freezer. It's just overall an easier gunfight for him now. A lot more of deployable shields being applied to this space healthily, as we'll have Goyo worked back in for Fox A, and even more shields brought. This is going to be 5, guys. 5. Count them. 5 shields for the defenders. You never see this.
So let us see how much of a blockade this will cause for MNM, as they'll have to try and work past that. And of course, that's going to serve itself to eat up quite a few of these nades also. MNM will certainly want to save those to be able to get those obstacle points out of the way. They do not want to be sprinting through these hallways, then in the middle of it have to go for a very slow hop over in order to make their way into a site where they probably wouldn't be able to aim that properly as well.
What's the counter to 6 nades? 5 shields. That's what it is. And 3 ADSs on top of that. So much utility for MNM to now try and work through here. We'll see what they're able to achieve inside of this round, but it's going to be quite the interesting one, so you guys better lock in for round 10. MNM now clearing out the mid floor, but obviously we have to get all the annoying, boring stuff done first, like open up hatches and waiting for MNM to set up their execute, but it shouldn't be too long. All of Oxygen are just going to be lying in wait downstairs until they're able to achieve something. I do believe that there is one Oxygen member, yes indeed, all the way up in the tower space. It's vertical here, as Fox A will be playing slightly aggressive towards the tower stairwell, but more than likely won't be giving it up anytime soon. He just wants to be here as a presence if his friend needs him all the way upstairs.
And so still a very slow built-up assault here, and we haven't even accounted for vertical up inside a T3 that has yet to have been dealt with also. I'm actually very surprised he's going to play into this position, considering what ended up happening on the last basement attack. Yeah, this drone is potentially going to suss him out in a moment. Does he hear it, though? It's around the corner here, and vertical suddenly revealed, and this plan no longer as solid as it was a few minutes ago. A simple overwatch for the stairs is all they have to play now, and vertical's position will be thrown away, and more than likely won't be able to contribute as much. They're going to hard focus him. He's sliding away to this one, just barely makes it out, but can't get himself to the cross over by the attic, so Tyrant drones him out, and then takes him out as well here, throwing away the plans once again for Oxygen, and making this basement attack a little bit easier.
You have no idea how difficult it is to climb rather ladders nowadays with drones, so that was just fantastic from him. Definitely took some time and practice in order to get that mechanic down. So either way, for Oxygen, can they make the grandstand around these deployable shields? The Goyo shield for E-Box will already go off and start to delay some time due to its placement as MNM try and wrap themselves around this site. The Candela's out, but they have the counter in the likes of Laxing. Fox to go down inside of Elbow. Kino to get a very serious shot inside of the actual construction space. Yago went out a blind fight against Tyrant. Another one. It's down to Neo now in the 2v1 here for MNM. Can Laxing possibly get this done? He doesn't have a Nitro, obviously. He does have the cross, but Solidov does as well. And MNM are able to win yet another basement offense.
MNM hot on the heels of OXG here as they exchange out another round. And that's going to put Oxygen in a bit of a sticky situation here because they've tried 3 basement attacks. Neither one has gone off well for them. And yeah, that's going to force them onto their third site here as they're going to go for Meeting Hall next to hopefully give them a 6th and final round to at least guarantee the extra rounds in overtime, re-unlocking things like the upstairs hold. That is the one saving grace right now for Oxygen's defense, is if their Meeting Hall play works out, they can return back up to the 2nd floor, which is the only site they've controlled so far in this half. If not, though, MNM will sit on map point, and that will force Oxygen to win that site for a 2nd time upstairs just to trigger OT.
This just goes to show you how much Wamai really can do inside of a round with throwables and everything else. I mean, we're constantly seeing very solid pressure come in through these frag grenades. Even though these deployable shields are in play, it doesn't mean that they're obviously going to make it to where the defense is impossible to crack. In fact, MNM always having man advantage inside of that situation there, as they started off with vertical and are able to just continue to trade things out on site down to the 2 versus 1 as they try and attempt to put a plant down. So we'll tie things up yet again here as MNM make their best stand that we've seen thus far inside of this best of 3.
MNM truly coming alive on this attacking side, falling behind a little bit on the defensive end, but even there, having a pretty respectable fight compared to the first map versus Oxygen. This map pick obviously being Oxygen's, but one that MNM, as we can obviously tell by this point, is quite comfortable with too, giving us a real fight between these two teams. Not necessarily handing over these rounds on a silver platter anymore to the OXG roster, but certainly some one-sided ones being found by MNM too, making this a little bit more of a workable game for them.
Drones upstairs now for MNM to clear out this site initially, but obviously they know that there has to be some presence around this space. Vertical is going to start droning downstairs as well, just to double check on this with his drone that he's taken from the offensive side, see if there is any pressure that could possibly be coming up the stairwells later on. But obviously no one home for the time being, minus Oxygen members, so they'll be happy about that. Tyrant starting to push upstairs, and will Oxygen's defensive setup hold on? Worried about the cross here. Oh, very close for Tyrant, but not able to find the head of any of those Oxygen members inside of the dorm space.
A minute gone from the round here, and aside from those attempts to pop off with early picks, no real action between either team just as of yet. MNM, though, still favoring a play in from kitchen side, it looks like initially here, but after they're cleared upstairs, we'll check back in on that yet again and see if that's still going to be the case. That was how we saw Oxygen try to utilize it on their own assault against this site, and it worked out pretty well for them. So I'm going to take a page out of that book and try to work their way in from the cafeteria side also. Yog's position on the Jaeger upstairs, and Kids will now be found out. He'll go hunting that drone, but he needs to hunt some players in a moment. I was just trying to prevent the intel bleed so he can be a little bit more amorphous with his position inside of Kids. They know where he's at, though, and Yog doesn't even get a bullet out this time. Solitov knocks him right out of play. That once again sets up MNM with the early advantage they might just need to assault this site.
Well, Oxygen have been spread somewhat thin across this site in the current moment. A lot of presence from MNM in this top floor now as they begin to set up kitchen for a site execute. So much time remaining for them. The Ying still in play as well with no counter in the likes of Warden for the OXG side. So these Candelas will more than likely strike true here. The good news, though, is that they only have 2 remaining drones for the offensive side. So Oxygen can possibly sneak through the cracks here and get some very serious fragging power on deck before this goes off. Big problem now, though, is that Oxygen have fallen all the way back into the meeting space. We could have the possibility of a flank coming through. That could mean so much to this. The Candelas start to go off. That's a call sign for Foxay to hop 2. Is anyone aware of him? He'll be able to take 1, and they're not aware of the top presence. Oh, can he get them all? It's going to be Vert as well to tag on. And finally, Oxygen able to get yet another round here on their defensive side.
Foxay with a hero play and a massive blunder from the boys in MNM there as they are unable to account for Foxay's continued success, continued aggression over the top hatch there as he races in, shuts down the plant, and opens up the floodgates for the rest of Oxygen to come in and retake also. That's a big pickup for them and a much needed one at that, considering that MNM were in control of everything they needed to take the site, but could not follow through on it. Now Oxygen already are going to be able to return. Oh, and what's this? They're actually going to go back towards the basement here. They should have second floor unlocked, right?
Yes, indeed. They just did meeting. Well, they just won meeting, so their only other, actually, no. Wait, yes.
Yeah,
because round nine, they did dorms.
Right,
so, yes, absolutely the case, my friend. So, for some reason, I thought you were talking about cafeteria for a split second. But either way, yeah, no, they should definitely have dorms unlocked in this situation. But, I mean, just as a callback to that, it was looking pretty dire, and they won some serious gunfights to pull them out of that. The only reason that MNM was not able to win that round is because of that engagement on white. If that engagement on white goes awry, that's definitely an MNM round there for sure. So they're more than likely just trusting the downstairs because of what we talked about before. It's the most defensively sound site on this entire map. So it's going to be difficult. I'm not trying to lie to you.
0-3, yeah.
Yes, they are indeed 0-3 on this site. But for MNM, I mean, is this going to be all she wrote? It's very, very close to the end of this, and Oxygen trying to close this out in regulation here as they will make their grand stand for the 4th time in the basement.
A bold choice, in my opinion, if you can't tell already. So let's see if Oxygen's decision to go back down here is going to work out. Once more, we'll see Vertical play in the site this time as well. That might be the reason why they're deciding to go back to it, is like, okay, count the Vertical thing as a bit of a fluke, but he played in the site of the round before that, and it was still the problematic position because he had Overwatch for the back stairs and the construction push that was ultimately not needed. And by the time he rotated back into position, the cross had been made from Freezer, and the site had been fully taken over as well. So need to make sure that that defensive matrix is going to be sound at a minimum. The comms are on point here, so that if someone sneaks through it once again, they're their entire setup doesn't fall to pieces, as we've already seen on 3 other rounds.
I'm truly terrified for Oxygen in the moment, and terrified for the NA fans at home. I don't know necessarily what's going to happen inside of this round, because MNM has been so dominant over this site time and time again. And, well, as of right now, this is looking to be no different. It's opening up the exact same way. The only difference being is that Vertical isn't all the way up in tower and waiting to be a free frag for when they inevitably drone out that space. A beautiful Valk cam to find some info initially here, but Vertical won't be able to tag up the op. The old sandbag Valk cam out in lobby will find our Maverick torching up this hatch for the time being. So Oxygen going to have a better read on this situation, and that one, you know, it's pretty simple at the end of the day. Either way, Oxygen still waiting on MNM's next move here, as he's still got some hatches to open, but in a moment's notice, MNM will try and strike onto the site.
MNM starting to take up positions outside of all of the execute points. We've got one player in construction. Solotov working his way in with the Twitch drones, going to see if he can take out some utility. A few more waiting around the E-hatch. And I think we might even have one trying to push down freezer stairs or laundry stairs too. So quite a few insertion points going to be used by MNM to try and bleed out the defensive positions of Oxygen. And it will play heavily into the back setup. This is working out well for Oxygen, though. This is what they've been waiting for so long and have never really been obliged on, usually leaving them quite vulnerable for their setup a little bit closer to the front of the site. But this time, MNM are going to walk right into the play that has been set up for them towards the back end of this map.
And this could be the problem here. Is Oxygen able to solve it? Let's see, MNM now with some frag grenades out. Laxing waiting for this front push, but obviously, as Blue said, it's coming in from the rear. Smoke starting to deal some damage to Users, but they're going to spring two, hopefully off of these Candelas. The first one out, they'll drop into E-Box hatch as well. Nitro Cell will deal some damage to Tyrant as Fox 8 pressures. He knows somebody's got to be in this space, but Tyrant wins it out with the Grismont, fully blinding him as well, as the first kill will go to MNM. But will the round. 15 seconds remain now as they need to get something done here. Candela's out. Still have the Warden in play as well to try and assist. The crossfire here from Vertical gets one, it gets two. They know where the plant's coming down. The pistol out. It's all down to Nello and Solotov. Make it Nello! And that's it for Oxygen. They secure the map in 2-0 fashion. They win over MNM and send them home.
They get it done with a knife as well. A brutal way to knock an opponent out of this tournament, but it is done. 7-4 on map number 1, 7-5 on map number 2. OXG hold on control of the series, and are going to be able to stay alive for one more battle as they move forward in the lower bracket and get ready to face off against their next opponent. For MNM, it was a valiant fight, making it all the way out of the groups, but their road ends here in the first match of playoffs as they fall victim to one of North America's greatest.
And you have to feel for MNM in the moment. Honestly, you have to feel pretty happy for them, I would say. This was an amazing run here at SI from a team that, well, made it out of the EU qualifier all the way here, and they looked very dominant on quite a few of the maps that we witnessed them. I'm very sad to see them go home, but for North America's Oxygen, they will stay alive here today.
OXG live to fight, I believe, later today as well. We'll still see them face off, and if memory serves me correctly for our bracket, I think they've got the rematch versus FaZe coming up now as well. I'll have to double check on that one, but if that is the case, OXG have to get prepared, because as we saw in that matchup, FaZe tore them to pieces round by round, picked them apart, especially on FaZe's own defensive end there. We saw them really abuse some of the indecisions, some of the slip-ups on Oxygen's own attacking side, so hopefully they've been able to go back into the practice room and figure out those mistakes from yesterday. If that is indeed the case, there's going to be a lot of work indeed for them to work towards. Like I said, though, not 100% sure on if that's the way the bracket folds out. Our command center will have full confirmation of that when we go back to them in a few minutes.
Absolutely the case, my friend. But the good news for Oxygen and all their fans at home is that Vertical's been activated. He's looking very, very solid, minus that blunder that happened inside of Pillar for one of their basement setups. He's looking really, really good. So excited to have him back in the fold, and hopefully he can continue that on later today. But for Oxygen, once again, you have to be extremely happy for this result.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for your first series of the day. We're going to go to a short break. When we come back, our command center will be ready to break down